Hello everyone, this is movie 2 of What If Naruto Had a Dual Bloodline, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to see more comment down below. Versus Kiba Inuzuka. The girls with Kakashi were just standing in the stands, hearts filled with worry about how Naruto is going to react to the fact that he is against Kiba. They got their answer seeing that Naruto had a giddy smile on his face that started to freak him out. They got themselves back together once they remembered that Naruto was the happiest boy in the world because he was waiting for a chance to battle Kiba, especially after he tried to steal Hinata away behind his back only because they were teammates. Elsewhere, Shino was feeling uneasy about the aura of extreme eagerness that was radiating off Kiba as of this very moment. The bug user knew very well the reason behind it all because when Kiba tried to assault Hinata the very moment they arrived at the tower a few days ago, Shino tried to stop him when Hinata managed to break free and run away from Kiba, who chased after her like a crazed and hungry animal. Shino was glad that he made it in time to see Kiba being put down and punished for throwing away any honor for his idiotic lust for Naruto's girlfriend. I can't wait to grind that dobe into the ground for stealing my girl, and once I show her she was wasting her time with him, she will go out with me and make me my pups. Kiba wasn't aware that he was thinking out loud, which caused some people around him to grow either angry or fearful of the dog boy. Even his companion Akamaru wasn't looking at him in the same light anymore. Kiba, the match is going to be over if you don't hurry, Shino managed to say and successfully got his teammate out of his crazed daydreaming. The dog boy grabbed Akamaru and in haste, tripped and fell down the stairs to where Naruto was waiting at. He and Hayate were not pleased about the entrance Kiba made. That was not cool. By coincidence, Naruto and Hayate both thought the same thing as Kiba collected himself together and took his place on the opposite end of the arena as Naruto. Are both fighters ready? Hayate said, wanting to be more professional and to break the awkward silence. Damn it. Will you just start the match? I want that date with Hinata already. That was Kiba's reply while Naruto just nodded, with a glaze of hate and disgust at his opponent who can't even control his own hormones. Fine. Hajime. Hayate may have sounded neutral, but inside, he is rooting for the dog boy to lose because he was losing his patience with the Inuzuka's mouth. However, nothing happened, both of them just stood there looking at each other. They were waiting until the other makes the first move, but even that didn't last long when Kiba got impatient. Dobe, you better give up now before you are killed. You can just count on me to take good care of Hinata-chan and that banshee bitch that you were dating behind her back. Kiba taunted with the facial expressions of hate, lust and disgust that was really getting under everyone's skin. They know about the dog boy's mother and for once, they were cheering for Naruto to win, so they will spare their ears of Kiba's voice and their eyes from the sight of scum like him. Kiba. Naruto finally spoke, and the said boy was hoping that it was his opponent going to forfeit, but instead this came. Have you been dating Sasuke? Silence. Silence was in the air for only a few seconds until laughter came next, and boy did it fill up the stadium in a flash. Everyone present was laughing their heads off for less, judging by how hard they were at it. Even the children, who couldn't understand it as good as the adults, were giggling along. Kiba was the only one not laughing as the one of the sudden amusement, and instead was boiling up with the humiliation that even his companion, Akamaru, was on the ground laughing at the dog boy's embarrassment. Naruto was chuckling at his own joke, which brought further insult to injury. Kiba was so angry and humiliated that he could barely speak. Ha ha ha. You don't get me. Naruto spoke after nearly lost his head in the laughter. Think about it, you look down on others. You think that your word is like that of a god's. And you think girls are nothing more than property to show off like trophies, and worse off all, baby factories. You and Sasuke have a lot in common. You must be dating him in order to take after the team to that extent. After how Naruto explained himself, the laughter died and silence returned as those words rang over and over again in everyone's ears. This is probably because it is so true that it hurts to even smile at it. The Inuzuka clan head and her daughter were no better. That does it. When I am done with you, there won't even be a speck left for the birds and rats. Kiba finally snapped, and even his lifelong companion started to back away from the boy, and Naruto sensed it. The blonde then waved his hand, which told Akamaru to do what he wants, and that meant for the dog himself to stay out of the way for both fighters. Naruto turned his attention the mess of a clan heir in front of him. You really can't control your temper and you let a dobe like me get under your skin. That isn't what a future clan head should do. And for the umpteenth time, Hinata-chan chose to date me and there is never anything wrong with that. There is something wrong with that. Kiba shouted in retort, making Naruto raise an eyebrow queerly and waited for what Kiba has to say next. She should have chosen me. I am better than you. I am not a dead last. I am a clan heir and I am the best of everyone there is. They couldn't take me out of the exams because I am the most valuable one out of the class of trash. Now, everyone were trying to save their ears from such verbal torture, but that last sentence instead stayed in their heads, echoing like in a dark cave. The civilians couldn't help but agree with Naruto on such a poor example Kiba is setting, especially after that, but the shinobi took it the hardest because one of their own just insulted his own comrades. It was a challenge not to go down there and make a tower of bumps on the head and make a new face of bruises, however, they were distracted. Wow, it is freezing. Are you joking? It has got to be over 100 degrees with this sun. Are you sure you're okay? I am feeling just fine. These were only mere examples of what ran through the crowds as random people either felt scorching hot, freezing cold or indifferent. This included the shinobi who may have found the source's area around Naruto was strangely both hot and cold, while Kiba was sweating on his legs through his pants while he was shivering around his torso that even his coat couldn't warm him up. The only thing that made all this like a walk in the park was what came out of the blonde's mouth. So that is it. Naruto spoke in a tone that was rough and cold to the ears of men including Kiba, but the women only heard a smooth and hot taste to their ears. You see everyone around him as trash. Including the Hokage, the noble clans, even your own mother. Kiba didn't say a word, he just focused on finding out what is wrong with him. You are also saying that Hinata-chan made her biggest mistake being with the one she loves and around real friends rather than with a boy who is just waiting for a chance to rape her. You are insulting the woman you desire enough to throw away your pride and your honor to make room for your own stupid lust. While everyone was breathless and in awe at Naruto's speech about Kiba's disgrace today, the dog boy was feeling something heavy that was quickly taking his will to fight away. Then he noticed that his legs wouldn't budge from their spot and Kiba only had the chance to see ice covering them when Naruto closed the distance between him and the dog boy with something boiling in his hand. Kiba's head was forced back up when Naruto shoved his hand into the face, but that was just to land the first strike in the whole match. There was something else. Arrgh. Kiba shouted suddenly, and before he could move again, Naruto landed a right hook on the cheek with a low sweep that broke the ice and the legs under them. All this caused Kiba to tumble to his back, helpless to get up. But that wasn't important, to him that is. My nose. It is burning. While everyone was queried about the statement, Naruto smirked as he walked over Kiba with his shadow covering the dog boy. Burning. You are ready close that one. Naruto spoke, which brought the crowd's curiosity to the peak. Let me ask you, Inuzuka, why doesn't animals like dogs or wolves approach our springs? Why do they run from geysers even before they erupt? Why they avoid the alleyways on the hottest days of the year? Those same questions echoed through everyone's heads as they waited for more. I will tell you, it is simple chemistry. What? It stinks. Kiba yelled, in which it sparked the answer in everyone's minds, and for that reason, Naruto smirked. You're right, they avoid what stinks because while garbage smells bad to us humans, it is 100 times worse for those who trained their noses to outmatch ours. Naruto explained while the situation getting good, it applies to hot springs and geysers because they are both basically heated water mixed with other minerals that give off a horrible odor when heated. That is why dogs and wolves avoid them, the smell will immobilize their senses until they are helpless. When Naruto was finished, the crowds all had an, expression on their faces as well as awe and confusion as to how the dead last will understand such concepts. So, after I learned that, I started to use a technique that involves heating the air around me with some more ingredients added to create such phenomenon. Even though that Kiba now knew what is wrong, he still glared at Naruto instead of tending to his injured legs. What is wrong with that guy's head? Still, Naruto was not done yet and got everyone's attention once more. Why did you go for your nose while your legs are clearly in greater pain? Without them, you can't use your clan's proud techniques or even hunt down your prey like you train for. You should have seen it coming and cut off the chakra from your nose to avoid this as well. You are truly a disgrace to your clan. Dog breath. Even Shikamaru, who isn't a human, has more humility to you ever shown today. That last sentence was said as Naruto petted the said animal, who approached the two shinobi out of awe for Naruto rather than concern for Kiba. Speaking of which, the dog boy finally passed out from the pain both physically and emotionally. Hayate went down once Kiba's head hit the ground and checked for a vital. Afterwards, the proctor cleared his throat and announced Naruto as the winners. Then, Kiba's mother, Sume, with her daughter came down and sneered on the managed body of her son and successor. Naruto was about to give Akamaru back to her as he was still Kiba's partner, but the clan head allowed the blonde and his friends to tend to Akamaru until Kiba proves to be the clan heir for real. XXXXX. After the whole episode was over, everyone was glad to see Kiba being dragged out by his enraged mother and older sister. Who knows what they have in mind for this horn dog, no pun intended, and no offense to you dog owners out there. Closing parenthesis question mark. Naruto just settled Akamaru in his arms and took the sleeping dog into the stands where his team and girlfriends were watching from. That was a good idea because Akamaru had gotten used to Hinata's presence during the days of Team 8, so she was able to gently take the dog out of Naruto's arms and smooth Akamaru. He was really down after he had to see Kiba act like the scum he kept hearing from others. Akamaru thought that he had the best partner possible all his life. Hinata had finally got Akamaru to settle down enough for the ninja dog to take a nap in her arms. However, it was going to be short-lived when the board started to switch between names once more. When it stopped, there was tension in the air, and yet excitement is there too. The board read these names. Hinata Hyuga vs Neji Hyuga. The civilians felt no different, just awaiting another exciting match, but in the shinobi side they are feeling something else. Hinata was feeling a little nervous because she saw how powerful her opponent, her cousin, was, and she still doesn't think she is up for the task. She stirred when she felt Naruto's hand on her shoulder. I can understand how nervous you may feel. Neji and his team has been a genin for a year longer than any one of us. You may be out of your league. Although the words are harsh, the tone was soft, so Hinata felt better anyways, but you have been training hard to get ready for a day like this to happen. You will be fine and don't worry about winning, it isn't what this match will be about. Hinata still didn't speak, but that doesn't mean she wasn't paying attention to her boyfriend's words. She knew what he was talking about. Neji always tormented her for being herself and that she was weak because she couldn't follow tradition. But now, she was going to prove that doing that will only make her stronger, stronger than she can ever imagine. Thank you Naruto-kun, I will do my best in this match. Hinata finally found her voice to speak those words, and she went down to the field where Neji was standing with his everlasting glare of hatred in his eyes. Hayate was also there too, waiting for Hinata to take her place on the field. Are both challenges ready? Hinata spoke yes while Neji just huffed his own agreement of indifference, then, Hajime. After that being said, Hinata moved into a stance while Neji didn't budge from his posture or position, and neither did his demur. There was an awkward silence afterwards as the civilians waited for something to happen, but for a few minutes nothing happened. Then Hinata relaxed her stance and stood upright with an annoyed look on her face, something that no one expected to see. Are you going to fight like the one with fate on his side will do, or is all that just buff? Hinata said in a tone that was like she was trying to dig under his skin. Shut up, failure. Fate has already chose the aftermath of this match, so there is no reason to fight. Neji always spoke in a tone about how fate was treating me like a golden son, like whatever Neji said that fate on his side, then no one will want to face him in battle. Still, he was curious as to why Hinata wasn't stirred but was persistent instead. Ni-san, fate isn't a future teller and neither are you, so stop saying that fate is responsible for everything. If that is true, then don't you hate fate for taking away your father? Neji actually had a shocked look on his face at how true that question was, but he refused for others to see it, so he instantly changed his mood to that of anger. Don't you try to bring that up, failure. Ah, did I hit a sensitive spot? I thought the great Neji who has fate by his side will never feel offended. Hinata continued to mock her opponent, lending everyone in the stands to remember who she was hanging out with, the prankster king of the village, Naruto himself. I will shut you up for good. Neji snapped and ran with a palm covered with chakra, intending to end the match with one strike. It would have happened, but Hinata had other plans. She actually ducked under the attack and spanned on her foot to kick Neji back with other one. That got everyone off guard except for Team 8 as well as Naruto and Sakura as they saw her practice with similar movements. She told them that she was working on her own style that will stop holding her back and bring out her real strength in battle. Ah, lucky shot. Now you die. Neji shouted when he tried to do a direct right thrust but widened his eyes when Hinata simply brushed her hand across his arm in motion until Neji was hit with a mean palm hit on the face, sending him back once more. Damn it. Neji got up and tried to hit Hinata, but she will always dodge smoothly like the water in a calm river with the flexibility of a natural dancer. Stop that. Neji sure was getting annoyed that his attacks could land on Hinata and he was getting the punches in return. Soon, Hinata was standing true and unscathed while no one can say the same for Neji, who was covered from head to toe in bruises and grim. I see you are confused and enraged by how fate is letting you down today, eh Neji? Hinata said with a cool attitude that was only making Neji even more frustrated. Hack Rokuji and show. Neji then started to use palm thrusts again, but they seemed to be targeting specific points on Hinata's body. However, I was just trying to find out what was wrong with me and the traditional style of the Juken as to why it never works for me. Hinata spoke while gracefully dodging the attacks in succession, which got the user angrier, and as a result, the movements were getting sluggish and sloppy. Then something hit me, like this. To prove her point, Hinata playfully punched Neji in the chest and the face next. I realized that I take after my mother, who never was able to do the style taught by the clan herself. Then she was weak. If she wasn't able to do what the Hyuga clan has been doing for generations, then she is a disgrace. Neji shouted, hoping to break Hinata's composure, but soon, he will be wishing that he never did. It is those who defend tradition even when it is the one thing that was tearing apart the clan slowly and painfully that are weak. Especially someone who refuses to let go of the past like you, Ni-san. Hinata spoke in a tone that was barely any different, and this time, it got the desired effect only on the other target. Neji, however, couldn't say another word when Hinata charged for another punch. Kaiten. Neji spanned until he was surrounded by a dome of pure chakra that threatened to take apart what comes into contact. Hinata avoided such fate when she managed to halt her advances just a few centimeters from the protective dome. When Neji slowed down and deactivated the shield, Hinata sprang into action and landed a solid arm jab to one of Neji's arms. This caused him to fall to the ground. So, I decided to tinker a little with my mother's notes on her personal fighting style with a spice of the original one. This is the result, a mix of fluid movements to evade even the fastest attacks by feeling the air moving ahead, and stiff attacks to massive damage. I call it the Jiken no Kashirozen. Hinata finished her explanation and was like rubbing salt in wounds for Neji's ears as he suffered on the cold ground facing his back. If you want to avoid further embarrassment, you will surrender and forfeit. Hinata offered Neji, but if you actually knew him enough, this is to be expected. Never. I will die before I surrendered to a failure of the clan. Failures are doomed to remain failures. Neji was defiantly having a bad day to be that crazy talking, and that cost him, big time. Hinata sighed as she mentally hit herself for thinking that such a person like Neji will listen to an offering of surrender. She calmly walked over to the sorry body that was too broken of the moment to listen to Neji's demands to obey him. If people were never meant to change, then we will never be successful, never grow up, never be ready to face the world on our own 2 feet, and worse, never be able to live our own lives. To hold on to the past, which doesn't exist in the present or future, is never what a prodigy or elite warrior will ever do. Think about that and you will actually make your father happy, proud, wherever he is. Hinata whispered such words into Neji's ear before using her Juken to knock him out. Hayate soon appeared next to the sad mess and cleared his throat. Shusha, Hinata, Hyuga. Those were spoke in a clear and proud voice in which cheers for such an exciting match came next. Hinata made a sigh of relief as she went back to her boyfriend's side, not even looking back on Neji, who didn't deserve pity after throwing everything his family had left and looked down on others, even the ones who suffered more than him. XXXXX, alright Hinata-chan. That was real kick-ass back there. Naruto greeted his lavender-eyed girlfriend with enthusiasm that seemed to be spread to the rest of the shinobi around them. She giggled at the welcoming party, especially when her fellow girlfriend hugged her like a doll. They say that a beautiful moment can't be rushed, but fate didn't seem to follow that rule as the board started to roll through the remaining names until it reached this matchup. Sakura Haruno versus Ino Yamanaka. What? I have to fight forehead. I should be fighting against a real challenge. Ino Yamanaka unfortunately had a rivalry with Sakura during the academy days when they both fawned over Sasuke the most out of the fangirl group. She always told Sakura that her forehead was the thing that Sasuke hated the most, and that it make her the biggest target in the world. In response, Sakura always called Ino pig, in a way to insult her too. Troublesome, you were the one to beat us when we try to take these exams as we can. Shikamaru complained after hearing his female teammate actually acting like a hypocrite, one of the hardest type of people to tolerate and understand. Besides, Sakura-san has been hanging around with Naruto during the past 2 months and I have seen her with my own eyes. She has changed into a much better person than she was in the academy. You can't afford to underestimate her. Despite the warning, Ino still thought about objecting to fighting the weakest genin in the exams. Her team knew better. Ino never took her training any more serious than the rest of Team 10 and instead was thinking of ways to get Sasuke to be her teammate and boyfriend. This may be yet another match to teach some humility. This one is much more harsh than the one that Naruto used successfully to change Sakura for the better. Ino just went down to the battle area where Sakura is facing her on the other end. Hayate was in the referee's place once more waiting for Ino settle in her position. Are both fighters ready? Are you kidding? Ino said as an icebreaker, let's just get this over with so I can tell Sasuke-kun that I am the prefect girl for him. She didn't see it but Sakura actually scowled at the mention of the Uchiha as well as Hayate. He heard of Sasuke's acts of treachery during the wave mission and was disgusted at how the village was overlooking the very thing they despise the most. Anyway, Hajime, Hayate said, starting the match which caused Ino to decrease her distance from Sakura to end this with one hit. What happened was Sakura actually catching Ino's fist and twisted her arm to land her hard on the ground behind. Sakura then jumped for more breathing space while Ino tried to recover from the unexpected counterattack. Hey, that is cheating, Ino yelled, which made no sense to anyone. Being a ninja, the only cheating that counts is backstabbing and interfering with other people's battles just to get the credit. Sakura knew that, everyone in her class knew that and the teachers knew that too, yet Ino seemed otherwise. Ino, we are not samurais or boxers. Something like that works in the rule book and besides. Sakura paused as Ino shakily got on her feet. If you were better than me, you would have countered that counterattack. Unlike you, I have seen how the world really works and actually started my training. I had lots of good help on the way. Sakura stated coolly and clearly. Yet, you traitor. Ino still hasn't realized how wrong her views are in terms with reality. Training is for boys to protect us. Potential wives don't get dirty form that stupid ninja training. Sakura just face-palmed at Ino's idiocy. It was like looking at a mirror of her back in the academy as a simple fangirl who does good on tests only. This time, I am really going to hand you in. Ino started to weave hand size, ending in a pair. Shintention no Jutsu. Ino's body went limp after saying those words and Sakura's body started to shake. In the stands, this is a sign to the clan members or anyone else who knew about the Yamanaka clan that the signature move was used by the clan heir. Right now, Ino's body is hollow of the very moment and the mind of the heir is instead Sakura's mind instead, trying to seize control. Inside Sakura's mind, Ino was looking for the control room to use Sakura's body to her bidding. Instead, she found something else, Sakura's secret weapon. Hello Ino. The clan heir is now face to face with a giant version of her opponent, easily towering over her. Ino has no chance in winning against this Sakura. Outside, Sakura's body stopped shaking and Ino's body started to move again. How? You had a alter ego? Sakura asked. Yes I do. I don't want mind walkers messing with my head, so you are out of luck Ino because you are nearly out of breath. True to that, Ino was panting heavily and it hurt for her to stand up completely. So, I can still win this match for Suke. Ino was interrupted when she felt something pierce the back of her head, but with little to no time to response, she blacked out. Sakura laughed at her ex-friend's foolish attempt to savage any pride and devolution she ever had in her head. Ino, the world isn't fair. Girls love to complain about that and try to make it more fair. I have to admit that I was like that during the academy days, but I am still alive and I am still kicking even after I had to listen to my ex-crush talk like the scum parents taught us to hate. I decided to take another chance at life. I am not regretting it today. Sakura knew Ino couldn't hear her, but she just wanted to get it out of her system. It always feels great to get a weight off your shoulders and your chest. Hayate appeared to check Ino and announced, Shusha, Sakura Haruno. The crowds cheered for all the action and impressive recovery that the Academy Banshee had shown as a result from 2 months of real training in her team. XXXXX with yet another good match finished and another heavy speech to hit our hearts, it was that moment when the board was switching the remaining names once more. Sakura had already rejoined Naruto and Hinata the stands. Now that they each had their own match, they can finally stay together and watch the remainder of the preliminaries. After a while of terrible suspense, the pair of names have been decided. Tenten Higurashi versus Temari, Guy-sensei. Lee asked in much quieter tone that had little to none of the excitement as usual, and the Jonin in question saw that too. You did teach Tenten a backup plan. In case that her style doesn't work. Guy was silent and looked down in shame that his team picked up. Lee was pale while Tenten in question was just irritated that her team was overthinking things. Everyone else could only imagine of what caused such an eccentric and loud pair to grow silent over something like this. Translations. Hack Rokujuin Show 8 Trigram 64 Palms. Juken, Gentle Fist Kaiten, Revolving Heaven Jiken no Kashirozen, Shoreline Events Personal Creation. Shintenshin no Jutsu, Mind Switching Technique Tenten Higurashi vs Temari. Guy-sensei. Lee asked in much quieter tone that had little to none of the excitement as usual, and the Jonin in question saw that too. You did teach Tenten a backup plan. In case that her style doesn't work. Guy was silent and looked down in shame that his team picked up. Lee was pale while Tenten in question was just irritated that her team was overthinking things. Everyone else could only imagine of what caused such an eccentric and loud pair to grow silent over something like this. I wanted to fight at least one member of Team 7. I so want revenge for what happened in the forest. Temari whined until a single glare from her brother silenced her and a scolding from her team leader got her on the field facing Tenten, who is waiting with eagerness. Neji lost, and to a rookie no less. I will surely regain my team's honor by winning my battle. That was what was going through Tenten's head, not even on the fight that was just about to happen. Hayat was neutral to it all and just did his job. Are both fighters ready? They all said yes once they were out of their stupor. Then Hajime. Once the proctor has spoken and moved out of the way, Tenten acted first and took out a scroll to reveal kanji writings inside. She then used chakra to activate them, which caused a storm of various weapons to rocket towards Temari. Axes, swords, spears, anything sharp was headed right at the sand girl, but she didn't bat an eye until she took out what looked like an oversized fan. Kamaiteki no Jutsu. A huge gust of wind came next after those words were spoken and blew the shower of sharp steel in various directions away from Temari. Not one got close. While Tenten was shocked, her team sighed in the stands. They thought something like this will happen. Tenten's dependence on weapons was more oblivious than how eccentric Lee was about the flames of youth. Also in the stands, Naruto made a look that spoke on how he understood why Team 9 was nervous about this matchup. I can see it now. Naruto said, and it got the attention of everyone around him. It is clear that Tenten uses weapons only for long-ranged attacks. The sand girl can just blow them away until Tenten has no weapons left. With that being said, the audience around Naruto also understood the situation is bad news for a ninja like Tenten. Back in the battlefield, Tenten overcome her shock as she took out 2 more scrolls, but they seemed to be different ones. When she opened them, Tenten jumped and started signing in the center. Soshoryu. It was like a twister was born in the center of the field, and soon, handheld weapons like before started to shoot out in all directions. Tenten hoped this will throw her opponent off guard. She was wrong. Temari smiled at the display. So you were shooting your weapons from a twister. Impressive, but Temari paused as she readied her fan and wind started to move around her. Nothing has changed. The battle fan started to glow with the wind acting on it. Kamaiteki no Jutsu. The same wind that Temari commanded not long ago returned, and like she said, it deflected the rain of weapons away from her. Unfortunately for Tenten herself, she was still in midair and the wind jutsu had destroyed her concentration. She was going to fall hard onto the field. However, Tenten soon wished she did when she instead landed back first onto Temari's folded fan. The impact almost broke Tenten's back, but the proctor wasn't going to stay around and wait for that to happen. Halt. Cough. Tenten cannot continue, so the winner is Temari no Subaku. Hayat announced, hoping it was going to end it all. He was wrong. A loud crack was heard, and when the proctor looked around, he saw Temari still beating on an unconscious Tenten. Stop. I said the match is over. Hayate stopped in his tracks in surprise when Temari did halt in her attacks, but obliviously not from Hayate's words. No, it was Naruto Uzumaki holding Temari by her blonde hair and her giant battle fan. You know, I was glad to meet someone with blonde hair as the only one with such hair color in Konoha entirely. Naruto spoke in a calm tone that got everyone wondering what his game was, as well as wondering while Temari was shaking in her position. I will hate to change that and make you bald in front of everyone including your team. Now it was clear, Naruto was placing Temari in a corner and he was taunting about it. All that started to change when Baki, leader of the Suna team, jumped down from his place in the stands and glared at Naruto. Uzumaki, I demand you will let go of my students or I can hand her punishment. To a civilian's ear that sounded like a threat, but a real ninja like Naruto knew better, and as a result the blonde smirked instead. I don't think you, half-face. Baki was in gawk that a Dobe was able to not be affected by his threat, and that the blonde will insult him instead. You are actually going to give your student a slap on the wrist and scold her for not acting a daughter of a cage she is. That was it. Now the crowds, ninja or civilian, were in uproar that a child of a cage was fighting in the exams. They just don't know if they should boo at Naruto for threatening such royalty or at the Suna princess for not making a good example. On the field, Temari and Baki were shocked at the statement. How did you know that? That info is only known to our village. Baki yelled in outrage, at which only boiled when Naruto grinned. Easy. If Temari was any Suna ninja, you would have gone down and threatened to kick her out of the team, but you didn't. You only reacted when I stopped her, and that told me that she was some important enough to threaten me instead of her for breaking the rules. I have seen it before. Naruto explained, and it got everyone in awe about how observant Naruto has shown at the moment. Whatever, just hand over my sister Udobe. Now that wasn't Baki's voice at all, and everyone turned to see Kankuro standing next to his team leader and not knowing that he caused another uproar by admitting he is also a child of a cage. He got in the end, or should I say, in the front, when Naruto responds with knocking Kankuro down with Temari's fan and at the same time, throwing the Suna girl into Baki, knocking him down. Fine, but you better make sure your sister doesn't see you with that fan or you are really in trouble. I am out of here and with Tenten. Naruto said, and true to his word, he picked up the weapons girl and disappeared in a swirl of ice. He reappeared where Team 10 was and handed over their teammate before joining his team. Naruto was really crossed about getting scolded for both protecting his comrade and for spilling a secret they did instead. XXXXX. Now that the incident is done and over with, the board started to sort names once more, and the silence ended when it stopped at 2 names once again. Rock Lee versus Mizusame, all right. Not a second later did the stadium get filled with a shout like this one, and to those who knew well enough, it meant only one thing: now I can win this match and regain my team's flames of youth. It came from Rock Lee himself of Team 9, the boy who went to lengths to match his idol in ways that craked everyone out. Elsewhere in the stands, the Kiri team recognized the second name as it belongs to one of their teammates. They turned to Mizusame, who was focused on fighting the match against a boy who has shown the potential to be a future taijutsu master. Reminder: our second and real reason to be here, Mizusame. We need you to win. They teacher, who seemed to be a mummy from clothes rather than bandages, and spoke in a stuffy tone. I understand, sensei, and I worked hard for anyone I should face. Besides, can we really trust the blonde with this? Mizusame said in response. I may not have met him myself, but your teammates and you yourself have got a good impression of him to share. Besides, if Zabuza Senpai and Mizukage-sama wish for us to do this, then we should not let them down. That was the mummy's answer, and Mizusame nodded and headed for the arena where Lee was standing with an impatient impression on his face. Are both fighters ready? Hayate asked the sentence of the day. He got a yes and a yosh for an answer, so he announced the match to begin. He left the field, and for a good reason, because Lee ran towards Mizusame with a leg readied for a kick as soon as the match begun. The Kiri boy managed to dodge by a split second, leaving Lee embedded in the wall behind with his leg first. Mizusame took the time that Lee used to loosen himself from the wall in order to gain some distance. Starting things off with a physical attack. Why not? Mizusame then took out kunai string to a wire, each with a piece of paper attached at the circle handle. He then threw them in Lee's direction, who moved to dodge, but for that few seconds, the kunai glowed and changed direction to face Lee once more and successfully blinded Lee's legs. The Konoha boy was shocked that his opponent had a clean shot despite his attempt to move out of the way. All he saw that Mizusame had a smirk on his face and his hands were in the ram seal. In the stands, Naruto was smiling and chuckling that his girlfriends picked up, and before they can comment on it, Naruto spoke his. Could have fooled me if I wasn't an Uzumaki, and it is a good thing I am. What do you mean, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked, and Sakura nodded along. I mean that the seals on those kunai are not the explosive notes we usually use. They are seals that allow projectiles to hone in on moving objects while still in motion. Naruto said, and that got everyone attention. I am tempted to learn the Matrix formula, but I will leave that boy's village to their own secrets. Still, I need to talk to them about their fuinjutsu skills. Whatever he noticed it or not, the audience around him, or at least the good ones, nodded at Naruto's statements, while others thought that he was skipping on a once-in-a-lifetime chance to learn about the future enemies. Back to the fight, Lee is trying to free himself when he noticed something burning and saw that the kunai with the seals attached at burning up. He saw this happen before when his teacher and idol used exploding notes on target practice. Lee turned to his smirking opponent with an expression of disapproval. Hey, killing is allowed, and besides, I am giving you a chance to escape that you are throwing away. Mizusame pointed out, and Lee widened his eyes and actually got the wire off, but when he tried to throw it away, he was caught in the blast. He landed a good distance away with some broken bones, still he got up to fight. Alright, if you are going to drill a hole in my head with that attitude, then I will spill the beans. It is too late to keep them a secret anyways. Mizusame said that last statement while turning to Naruto in the stands, who just smirked. What you saw firsthand was my Senrosum Fuin no Jutsu, a personal creation of mine from when I started out as a genin. Lee was still in the dark as he tried to bear the pain in every part of his body. It acts like a shark when it catches the scent of blood. It can sense my targets from even 10 miles away and won't stop until it hits, and will move around anything that gets in its way to do it. Mizusame finished his explanation, and by now everyone caught on, including Lee, who is now smirking. It is clear that I dropped my flames of youth in a mud pile, but I am planning on picking it up and cleaning it by defeating you. Despite how his body hurts, Lee raced once more but changed into a handstand as soon he reached Mizusame. Lee then used the strength in his arms to jump over Mizusame too fast for the Kiri boy to catch up. Lee is trying to make sure that the same jutsu works twice. Konoha Senpu. Lee then landed a rough kick to his opponent's back, but because of the previous injury and pain, the kick didn't do much damage, so Mizusame was able to recover before any real damage was done. I see. You have real devolution to keep fighting even with your body breaking apart. Where I come from, you're kinda welcome the best. Mizusame said, and Lee wasn't feeling like taking it while clutching the leg he injured while trying to land a hit. But you are only halfway in based on what you have been doing ever since you couldn't escape my explosive notes going off, and the Kiri boy disappeared and reappeared in front of Lee's pained face. Is this? Lee only saw that Mizusame's arm bulged inhumanely before landing a mean punch to the chest and knocked him out. Silence soon came and was interrupted when Hayate appeared in a blur and checked Lee's vitals. Shusha, Mizusame. Cheers for such a good show appeared for some, but others were not so sure about the humiliating defeat of a boy with such bravery and devolution. XXXXX. When the match was over, they had to brace their ears for when the leader and teacher of Team 9, Mighty Guy, ranted about his team failing their fights completely. He also said that he was going to train his team harder for next year, so all of them were going to make it to Chunin. Guy did all that until his was only an inch from losing his voice, and everyone wished it would have happened anyways. Their attention was to the board for the next matchups, and it stopped at 2 words again. Dosu versus Gaara in the stands where the Suna team was stationed. Gaara grinned that he had his match after waiting so long. He disappeared in a swirl of sand and appeared on the field where his opponent, a man covered in bandages with his left eye showing and garments on each of his arms that had holes in them. Hayate was also there in the middle of them as his role of the proctor. Are both fighters ready? His answer was a gruff yes, from Dosu, and a raspy whatever from Gaara, and those were good enough for him. Hajime. Hayate announced and used his shunshin to move out of the way, which was the wisest choice since Dosu raced towards Gaara with his gloves with holes. Kyomizen. The air ripped around the metal device and it seemed to affect the ground below as the dirt and stone started to shake and break apart. However, Dosu's target, which happens to be Gaara, was not hurt as Dosu hit nothing but sand that seemingly came out of nowhere. What? I can't get free. Dosu panicked as he couldn't move his arm out of the wall of sand that absorbed his attack and captured him. Interesting. Your use of sound waves to attack your opponents. Gaara spoke in a tone with no emotion whatsoever. But do you know for a fact that sand is like a buffer? Sound can never get through and is muted instead. Bad news for you. Gaara finished while commanding his sand to cover Dosu entirely, creating a cocoon-shaped prison that Dosu couldn't do anything other than struggle and scream through the thick sand. Sabaku Q. The screams of pain and fear were the only things heard before the sound of crushing bones and fresh arrived in everyone's ears as the sand bundle that held Dosu of Otogaku started to leak blood. Enough. Cough. Hayate spoke as he appeared on the arena. Gaara didn't pay any attention and just dumped the mess of blood and bones while retracting his sand into the gourd on his back. The proctor didn't even need to check it out. Winner by cough death, Gaara no Sabaku. No cheers were heard or any boos, just silence as Anbu agents cleaned up the mess along with the blood that was molding into the ground that made up the arena. XXXXX. After the dreadful match, Gaara used a sand shunshin to reappear at his team in the stands. They were only nervous that their teammate and brother was still inset on killing his opponents. Everyone else were given 10 minutes to throw up in private and get their bearings back together. Fortunately, there was to be one last match before the preliminaries were over. The board then started to choose the matchups until it stopped once more at 2 names. Choji versus Akanami. All right. It is about time I had my match. I have been waiting too long. For someone who's seen more than deaths for anyone's lifetime, Choji Akamaki sure is excited that his name has been decided for this last match since there was an odd number of genin at the start. After this, there will only be one left. Elsewhere in the stands, the Kiri team were a lot more focused about this than Choji is showing. Akanami, remember, we don't want any bloodshed after that Suna kid did without remorse back there. We want this match to be as clean as it can be and much better for the well-being of the others in the stand. The mummy leader of Kiri spoke brief and to the point. The girl nodded and went towards her place on the field. Are both fighters ready? Hayate asked and Choji yelled a big yes while Akanami just nodded so. Then Hajime. Hayate then moved out of the way just in time to dodge some kunai with explosive notes attached that were already burning. That again. I may be big-boned but I am not stupid. Choji proclaimed while preforming hand seals. Nikuden Sensha. Choji expanded to resemble a ball and rolled over the notes, smothering them against the ground below and thus successfully extinguished them before the notes can explode. Now I am impressed. Akanami said while her opponent was still rolling around like a giant bowling ball, but your rollout fun won't protect you from this. The Kiri girl ran towards Choji and while only centimeters from each other, Akanami managed to shift her entire body to her left and brushed her right arm, glowing in a blue aura, on Choji's unprotected side, Suka same no harder. In that next second, the image of a fierce shark passed right through Choji who was still in ball form and the Akamaki air dropped to the ground while covered in blood and cuts. Hayate dropped to see Choji's vitals and saw that the boy was only in deep pain that couldn't get up from the floor. Hayate stood up and cleared his throat. Shusha, Akanami. Cheers soon rang in the ears of those on the field and in the stands as the last match of the painfully long preliminaries has been announced over. XXXXX. After the mess was cleaned up and repairs were made, every remaining genin were called to the field. The Hokage was standing in front of them like at the start of the preliminaries. Only the amount of fighters were successfully cut down to half, a more suitable number of participates for the finals. Now that the preliminaries are finished, it is time to prepare for the finals. Hiruzen, the Hokage, announced and silence followed instead of protests like at the start of the day. Now, we are going to decide the matchups by random once more but by a different method. As soon as that was said, a jonin appeared with a box that had an opening in the top, big enough for even a grown-up's hand to fit in. Instead of this box are 12 sheets each with a number from 1 to 12 written on. Each of you will reach in and take out a number sheet but do not reveal your number yet. The 12 genin did as told and soon, they each had a number in their hands. Anko then stepped forward with a Biki by her side with a chart similar to the shape of tree roots, circles paired up all the way to only one on the top. Is that what the finals are? This looks more like a simple tournament compared to the last exams. There has got to be a secret meaning to this like the rest of the Chunin exam. Okay maggots. Anko announced, breaking everyone out of their thoughts like those above. One at a time, you will open your sheet and speak your number. A Biki will write your names down according to the numbers you say. The genin then opened their sheets at the same time and it went as followed. 3, 1, 7, 5, 2, 10, 4, 12, 9, 6, 8, 11. Abiki finished writing down everyone's names in the order they spoke their number. Thank you maggots, and now read it and weep. The sadist Jonin spoke and revealed the chart in which he filled out. The matches went as followed. Hinata versus Sakura. The two girls looked at each other, not with the look of taking the other down but want to do the best they can. A fight between loves is very fitting, isn't it? Hinata asked and Sakura smirked. Let's show how strong we are when we fight. Agreed. Haku versus Kankuro. Prepare yourself, makeup bod, or I will freeze all that powder off your face. Haku threatened in a sweet voice that got everyone else on edge, especially Kankuro, who was a little worried about the plan as soon as he saw Naruto in action moments earlier. Naruto versus Akanami. Naruto turned to find his opponent and found her. Let's fight with everything we have during the finals. Akanami had a good idea that something like this will come, so she just nodded. Of course, and beware, I am not a pushover. And I am not looking forward if you are. Naruto responded. Right. Shikamaru versus Temari. I have to fight another girl. Now that I have to train, I can't watch the clouds at all. How troublesome. Shikamaru complained like a pure Nara he is, and Temari was not happy. At the least, I have to fight a Nara. They are the laziest people in the world, and I don't care if he won his match, this one will be a waste of time. Gaara versus Mizame. I am not interested in your tricks or magic but your blood, so it better be good enough for mother. Gaara thought darkly in his head while his opponent was also in his thoughts. I better train so I can at least put on a good show before we have to move on with our plan. Shino versus Chojuro. Shino looked at the boy who had a dual-handled sword covered in wrappings on his back and glasses on his face. Let's do our best and learn from each other to understand another better. An Aberrane may be creepy with their fetish with bugs, but they are polite and respectful to even strangers and outsiders. The boy nodded. Thank you. Let us be battler at our greatest in TDF finals. Chojuro response in a similar manner to Hinata during the academy, yet this boy screamed power off its presence to an Aberrane like Shino. Now that you all had the chance to meet your adversary for the finals, you are all dismissed to start training until the finals start again over a month's time. May you do your best and not forget what the real meaning to a ninja is. Hiruzen announced off the genin, who went their separate ways. What they don't know is that there was evil plotting the shadows with the info they gathered from the matches and figuring out what to expect when the finals start. One thing is certain is that the finals are something not to forget, even they wanted to. Translations: Kamaiteki no Jutsu, Sickle Weasel Technique. Senrosum Fuan no Jutsu, Tracking Shark Seal Technique, Personal Creation. Konoha Senpu Leaf Whirlwind Kyomizen, Resonating Echo Drill. Sabaku Q Sand Binding Coffin Nikuden Sensha, Human Bullet Tank. Suka Same no Harder, Skin of the Passing Shark, Personal Creation. Location: somewhere in the land of rice paddies. Are you kidding me? That loud voice, surprisingly not heard by the birds and animals nearby, erupted from a building made of stone and clay. Inside, we find someone the size of a mature adult human panting hard from shouting. After turning around, we notice that it was Orochimaru from the Forest of Death after almost being killed by a taste of Naruto's new power. On the other side of the room is a younger adult who seems to be cringing to sound of his angry master. He is Kabuto from the Oto team, who just forfeited before the preliminaries could start. Orochimaru-sama, have I ever lied to you? Kabuto asked meekly from the shock, and his answer was a huge and somehow slowed down punch sent him into a table with glassware and herbs. What I can't stand around is that Sasuke-kun is locked up and his bloodline is being harvested into sperm, which I can't use. Orochimaru yelled as his anger is still fresh in his system. The snake sage finally cooled down after that brick breaker of an outburst was said and done. Why not you just assign one of us to free Sasuke-kun? Then we can take him to Otogakure without the invasion. Kabuto suggested, but he was silenced by another haymaker. No, I will not abandon my chance of a lifetime to get even with my senile old fool of a teacher, Hiruzen Sarutobi. Orochimaru said with as much denial as he can, and there were a lot to hear that you can see it. Besides, Sasuke-kun clearly wants to rebuild his clan, and without his sperm, that will be impossible for him. I can't convince him to join me unless I can prove that Sasuke-kun still recreate his clan. Well then, I do have some good news that can help us with this. Kabuto recovered from his second hit in the chest into the wall. Orochimaru looked at him with a stoic look that spelled very little patience. It better be good, Kabuto. Because if it isn't, then I will get another medic to be my personal doctor and you will be fed to my snakes instead. Orochimaru spoke of a tone that matched his facial expression perfectly. Yes, Orochimaru-sama, we have finally discovered the formula for creating artificial humans from even something as simple as a blood drop. Kabuto spoke in an eager tone, but he grew nervous when his master didn't respond in an instant like last time. After a while, Orochimaru started to move again and this time, spoke in front of Kabuto's face. Are you saying that all we need is Sasuke-kun's blood sample and we can create a clone of him complete with bloodline and everything? Orochimaru sounded desperate but didn't show it at all. Only Kabuto noticed it but remained silent on that part to avoid further outbursts. Yes, Orochimaru-sama, and all we truly need is to sneak into where they are keeping Sasuke-kun and gain his blood to return to our labs. Then we can create our own, Sasuke Uchiha. One that will be on our side and do what you say. Kabuto say it all at once so his master doesn't remain on edge. A person like Orochimaru on the edge is not one to want to keep for too long, things get messy. Thankfully for Kabuto, it worked and Orochimaru reverted to his own cool, collected and cunning self again. Thank you for the info, Kabuto. Let me know when you get your team for infiltration ready and I will give them the signal during the invasion. Are we clear? Orochimaru said with no room for argument and Kabuto nodded and left the room. Sorry sensei, luck is on my side and no matter what you do, I will get what I want even I have to wait 3 years to get it. Orochimaru then left to gather the rest of his troops for the upcoming invasion in a month. Behind his back, Kabuto was smirking. Looks like you fell for it, Orochimaru-sama, that plan sure worked like a charm. Maybe I should reconsider my stance after all. I better keep this up before this foolish snake finds out too soon. Then the schemer disappeared into the shadows of the lab for another one to pop out. XXXXX location, Konoha, the bathhousing district. Naruto was wandering around the various walls that are keeping the privacy of the guests from peeping toms. Speaking of which, the blonde was looking for one because Hiruzen said that the only one in the village that can possibly train Naruto for the finals was to be found the most at the hot springs, but why did the old man say that? Well, a blush on his face. I swear if Gigi led me on a wild goose chase in this place, then I am doubling his paperwork before he can finish today. Naruto grumbled as he only found people laughing and moaning in relief as they enjoy the hot water that helped them unwind and relax from crazy days in their lives. As he was about to give up, he heard a giggle. It wasn't made by any woman he ever heard do the same, but more like a man is doing it. When Naruto homed in on the sound, he found a sight that he wished he won't have found. A huge man with white hair covering his entire back was facing the wall to the woman's baths. It must have a peephole in it, while giggling like a squealing fangirl. Not saying a word, Naruto just snuck over and supercharged a kick into the man's bottom, sending him into the baths itself. Then Naruto found a good rock to sit on while enjoying hearing the sounds of angry women making their wrath and a man screaming in a girlish tone. Two of the girls that came out actually didn't mind that they were wearing only towels, they just walked over to Naruto and hugged both of his sides. The blonde smiled at how he was rewarded since these girls happened to be his girlfriends, Sakura and Hinata. I trust you didn't give mercy, girls. Naruto said, and he got a kiss as an answer while the two girls giggled. Of course not, Naruto-kun. Sakura said while snugging in some of the warmth from the hot springs onto Naruto by rubbing her side into his neck. This peeping Tom happens to be more durable than any old pervert in this village. Hinata finished off while doing the same. Then, the rest of the women finished their wrath on the old man and went home before any else could go wrong. Naruto kissed his girls on the lips before they left to their teachers for the month-long training. What is your problem, brat? Of course, Naruto couldn't forget about the sad sack of hair and skin that somehow stood up from all that women fury only to have a fit. I was just enjoying the view that any man will love to see and you have to rue, arrgh. He couldn't finish when he was interrupted by Naruto fish to the face. A lot of bone cracking were heard next. First off all, you old leech. Naruto said in a calm tone in which the old man yelled something about no respect for your elders. That happened to be where the kunoiki hang out and they hate it the most when perverts like you try to take a free peek. Second, you were giggling at the sight of my girlfriends and I won't watch you do it any longer. Finally, consider what I did as something for your neglectfulness, Godfather. Naruto finished with a tone that can cut through even steel, let alone the old man's heart. How did you? The man in white hair was now in shock and nervousness rather than rage. Gigi told me, you old fart. And the promise you made to my parents, Jiraiya. Naruto answered, in which the old man was now drowning in guilt at the truth that binds those words with thorns. XXXXX in the Hokage Tower, Hiruzen was working on his paperwork along with his shadow clones moving stacks in and out of the room. Then the old ruler looked to his orb that he uses to watch over his village and saw Naruto discussing with the man named Jiraiya. Hiruzen sighed when he saw how angry and resentful Naruto is while Jiraiya was on his knees in guilt. Oh Naruto-kun, I knew that you were angry, but can you even cut him some slack? That is way out of your character. Hiruzen thought as he took a break from his papers and remembered when Naruto visited him the other day about training for the finals. Flashback, I am sure glad that Naruto finally taught me to secret to all this paperwork before I meet my end under a pile of paper and ink. Hiruzen thought in relief until he heard a knock on his office door. Enter. The door opened to reveal Naruto. Hi Gigi, I see you took my advice. The blonde spoke in a friendly tone that Hiruzen and his clones smiled at. One of the clones said, as long as the boss works then we don't complain and slow things down. The other ones nodded and went back to work while Naruto took a chair and sat on the other side of the Hokage's desk while facing the ruler himself. So Naruto-kun, I am sure you came for more than saying hello. Hiruzen said in much serious tone after seeing how tense the blonde looked in the eye. Of course Gigi, I need someone to teach me for the exams. Naruto said brief and to the point. Kakashi can't afford to train me as Sakura still needed it the most and Hinata has Kurenai-san. Everyone else has their own teacher but me, so I came here to hear from you. Naruto explained and Hiruzen nodded at how true it was. So the Hokage started to search his old memory banks for someone he knew that can help Naruto at his current level. The old man found one, but there is only one problem with that one: he was supposed to be with Naruto all the way from the blonde's birth. Hiruzen sighed with his eyes closed, and that was making Naruto nervous as the blonde only saw his adoptive grandfather like that when there are bigger troubles around the next corner. Hiruzen opened his eyes filled with worry and doubt. Okay Naruto-kun, I have thought of a teacher for you. Naruto felt relieved but at the same time, confused as to the tone lacking in cheerfulness in the old man's voice. The problem is that he is also your godfather. Flashback end. XXXXX Naruto was also remembering that same set of events while Jiraiya was waiting in suspense as to what his godson was going to do next. Now then Godfather. There was still venom of disapproval and disgust when Naruto spoke that word. If you wish to make it up, then you are going to hand over your books to be burned to ashes and you will actually set a good example for once. Naruto was not making a suggestion but an order for the old man, who flinched at the terms and couldn't find the courage of the moment to complain. Naruto just grabbed whatever pawn books were on the sage and blew a small flame that spread to the next book until there was only ash left in the blonde's hands. Speaking of which, those hands also grabbed Jiraiya by the hair as the rest of the blonde dragged the flailing old man out of the hot springs and into a training ground usually reserved for special training, so most ninjas don't even arrive there often. Naruto walked over to a stump that was big enough to act as a stool for him while he dumped Jiraiya over across from him in a pile of bones. It took a while for the old pervert to wake up, kissing the dirt under him. Then he sat up while trying to spit out the dirt under his lips, on both sides. What is wrong with you Gaki? Jiraiya screamed, but Naruto didn't even flinch. Those words meant nothing to him. I should been asking you that as you trained my father and promised to look after me after I was born, but you weren't seen in the village since. I was forced to rely on the Anbu and Gigi's help until I could protect myself. I just hope you can explain why you were lagging behind only to peek in the hot springs and on other people's girlfriends. Naruto spoke his thoughts, and that left Jiraiya hanging like a worm from a fishing line hook. Well. Jiraiya scrambled in his mind to find an excuse, and it was not easy under the piercing glaze of an angry blonde. I had my spy system to see too. That was it. Naruto finally erupted in front of the old man's face. You are the one that should be my godfather, or even checked on me once in a while. This is the first time in years that you were in the village. Gigi said so. Naruto explained, and Jiraiya felt like his guilt increased tenfold. If you want to make sure that when you kick the bucket, you won't be spending your afterlife trying to escape my disappointed parents, then you better not lag about your training for the finals. Jiraiya nodded like a punished boy after being caught in the cookie jar. First of all, Naruto started, since I have an entire month to train, you are going to teach me what you know about my clan and give me my heritage. Are we clear? Naruto finished his stern order, no way a suggestion, to the old man who nodded so hard that his head was so close to falling off. Naruto just smirked at how he has the situation under control, good. XXXXX. When night fell, two shadows hurried to meet each other and were talking about something interesting enough for another person to listen to. I did say that this plan can help with your revenge, but now I am not so sure. A voice that sounded like Kabuto was heard. Don't tell that you and your master are planning to cancel everything even if we got this far. Now that voice was definitely from Gaki, the same one that was the instructor for the Sand team. No, Orochimaru-sama say it himself that he wouldn't back down so soon. Kabuto calmly answered and Gaki cooled down, he still wants the invasion to happen despite having running into a few snags. Now that was enough for the proctor to hear and he jumped out of his hiding place. Now I have got you traitors. Mikazuki no Mai. Hayate then acted like he separated into three in order to confuse his targets, but he halted himself when he saw Kabuto knock Baki out. Why did you do that? You were in the act together. That is what I want him to know, Hayate-san. Kabuto said, which confused the special Jonin even more. You see, I am in all this to find a real life rather than one on the run, and I have instead run into a very tempting offer that I can seem to refuse since it never seemed to fail me. Kabuto went until he placed his mouth near Hayate's ear and whispered something that made the Konoha ninja gasp. Alright then, I will give you a chance to join us if there are no strings attached. Hayate said sternly and Kabuto nodded. What happens once the finals undergo will determine that. Remember it. Hayate yelled and he disappeared with the Shunshin no Jutsu. Kabuto smiled and also vanished with the knocked out Suna Jonin into the night. XXXXX. Later that night, two souls were finishing up before bed. One was old man who just finished the last of the paperwork from his job, while the other was much younger and was hoping to crash in his home after a big day. Other than that, they were all thinking the same thing, the truth behind a perverted sage and the promise he made long before the Kyuubi attacked the village. Flashback 2 begins. Silence was the only thing that could be heard in that office in that tower that very moment as Naruto tried to take in that he had a godfather but never found out until he grew to a point where he will do the protecting, which is what a godfather was supposed to do. Hiruzen couldn't do better than just wait for when either Naruto falls apart or explode in his face. Instead, this was heard. Why? Hiruzen gave his full attention to the confused genin. Why is that I had a godfather all this time but I never even met him before in my life? Everyone always claimed to be my friend or help take care of me, and that was always a lie, but no one tried to tell me that they are my godparents. Naruto spoke in a broken tone that you can see in his eyes. Why is that, Gigi? Hiruzen sighed. I don't know personally why he never met you, but he was one of my students, so I know him very much. He was always trying to woo ladies into his charm, and always peeking on women in the hot springs or baths. I know that much, but I know I made sure that he will put that all aside for his godson, but he must have went and forgot all about that. The old cage said as he was too disappointed about it all in his own way. The last time I even saw Jiraiya was in my office when he was talking about his spy network he has over half the elemental countries. I told him that as long as he checks on you, then I let him do as he pleases with that system. I guess that he took his sage rights the wrong way and only claimed to have done that so he can get back to his peeking in the women's baths and his porn books. Hiruzen finished and he let a few things slip in his tongue. So he is a sage, huh? I heard that the only ninjas that can be that is when they prove to be worthy replacements for a cage if anything happens to the last one. Naruto said in a voice that left no room for argument, just a discussion. Hiruzen nodded and elaborated while he was at it. Yes, my students that I taught as a Jonin instructor are known as the Sanin no Konoha, and they all are worthy fighters on their own accord. The one that I have the most contact with is Jiraiya, who became known as the Gamma Sennin because he was able to summon toads of various sizes and uses in combat, as well inventing his own techniques to match that of a toad or his spying. Naruto nodded at the info. Unfortunately, I don't know where my other students are, but I heard that you ran into one of them in the Forest of Death. Naruto nodded after remembering how he managed to only gain the upper hand in his fight with such a dangerous man, with the fact that he took Orochimaru by surprise and weakened him. I understand it better, but I can only get the answers if I know where to look for this Ero sage. Naruto tried to speak in a straight tone, but it was too tempting to smirk at the nickname for the Toad Sage. Even Hiruzen laughed at it, as the name was too true and hilarious to boot. Right, I managed to catch a glimpse on my crystal ball that Jiraiya is once again peeping in the hot springs down the road and to your left by 3 blocks. Hiruzen said in a serious tone, and Naruto nodded before getting up to find this so-called godfather. The old man sighed as he relaxed in his chair. I sure hope you get your answers, Naruto-kun. I have seen your mean side before. I don't want anything else to go bad. Flashback 2 ends. By the time that Naruto finished his trip down memory lane, he had reached his new house and entered. He then saw that his girlfriends were already sleeping in the bed, while leaving a space between them that was big enough for him. Naruto just smiled and changed into his night clothes before joining them in the bed. Once he had settled into the sheets, the girls noticed and grasped each of his arms. Good night, girls, Naruto said before he drifted off on his comfortable pillow while listening to the faint sound of the kunoichi saying, good night, as well. XXXXX. The next started like any other until a scream that sounded like a KYAAA roared through the village, waking anyone trying to sleep in. They had a mind to complain to the one who woke them so early. What they didn't expect was that a group of angry women wearing only towels and bathrobes had beat them to it as they were chasing an old man who already had a red mark in the shape of a fist and a hand. The audience just shrugged. Even civilians knew that getting the way of angry women is a fool's wish. All of them just returned to their homes to see if they can catch some more sleep. Speaking of the old man, he was realizing that the vixens were gaining on him, and when he was at a dead end, someone's hand reached out to grab him by the white hair on the old man's head and pulled him out of sight. The women turned to see that they lost the old peeping Tom, and they also returned home with a scowl on every face that they can't even enjoy a good bath at the hot springs without being eyed on by perverts, even if one of them is an honorable seinen. Elsewhere, the old man was dragged by the brushy white hair on his head, so he was squirming in pain and discomfort. Then he was dumped on the ground. I told you that I wouldn't take a promise broken so easily. What were you even doing in there that had something to do with my training? Jiraiya looked up to see his godson with a huge scowl on his face that also had a look that wanted answers and not excuses. Well, Naruto, Jiraiya realized that no one ever asked that question even after years of peeping and writing porn. After stuttering and trying for words, he couldn't even whimper as Jiraiya laid on the ground in complete shame, but Naruto saw something else in that sorrow and disgrace. That is all you have to say after you made 2 promises, one since the day I was born and just last night. You really are a broken old man who couldn't even figure out why he couldn't even make friends with the girl he loves. Naruto said with a sigh, and Jiraiya was shocked at how accurate Naruto made of his past when they just met yesterday. How do I know? I have seen it before when I was young. The eyes tell secrets, we just need patience and understanding to listen to those secrets. Jiraiya said nothing for a while until he croaked out, yeah. I did love a woman, but I keep getting rejected. Now, I am starting to think it is because I am such a failure. Jiraiya didn't get the chance to say any more until he was slugged once again on the noggin. Don't go down in dumps with me now, Ero Seinen. That will not be what she wants, would it? Naruto said smugly, and Jiraiya didn't know whatever to yell at the insult or think about the question. Besides, I will do what I can to fix that broken heart and messed up head before you are through. Naruto proposed and saw the shine of anticipation in that old man's eyes, but Naruto wasn't done. If you will teach me all you know about my clan and my inheritance for the finals. Jiraiya nodded without a second's thought. Alright then, can we get started? XXXXX. Despite the fact that Jiraiya was no expert on seals, he knew very much in the art. From that, Naruto learned the basics of fuinjutsu from the sealing scrolls and explosive notes that ninjas normally use, but since it takes so long, they are bought at stores instead of being made themselves. Naruto displayed a talent writing seals as he got the designs done. Soon, half the month's time had passed and Naruto's learning had increased from the basics to more the complex seals, such as being able to store things that burn paper like fire and trap seals that can cover an entire area if the user is fast and precise enough to set them up to work right. However, Naruto soon mastered them and that meant he needed to move on, but before he needed to increase his chakra control so he can activate the seals from even a great distance, by using his chakra reserves as a cloud he can use to set the traps up and take opponents by surprise. That day was today. Hey Naruto, can you come here? Jiraiya called his student over from reviewing Fuinjutsu notes. You called, Ero-sensei. Naruto may have held back from his previous insult, but nothing would have changed the fact that he was taught by a teacher who wastes his time peeking on naked women. Sigh asterisk, whatever. Jiraiya sighed in defeat on how he can't stop his student for coming up with the disrespectful nicknames. I want to say that you are doing well in your learning of Fuinjutsu. It took me much longer than a month to get down everything I know about the subject. Still, you can't progress any further without this I am about to teach you. Naruto waited in awe that Jiraiya chuckled at. I am going to start teaching you about a jutsu that one of my earlier students invented. You mean the Yondaime? Naruto asked. He had heard that it was Jiraiya who taught the fourth how to channel chakra, so he will soon become the most powerful Hokage in the world. Yes I do, and its name is the Rasengan. Upon saying that name, Jiraiya opened his palm upwards and then, a sphere of blue chakra energy appeared hovering above the hand. Naruto started in awe and glee. Yes, this technique is also the pinnacle of chakra control, as it is basically taking raw chakra into a stable form and also into a shape. It is basically containing a tornado and releasing it on your targets if you wish it. Jiraiya explained and Naruto nodded at every word. It took the Yondaime Hokage 3 years to come up with the concept and to finally develop the jutsu. It took your teacher a half a year to learn it, and I personally mastered this jutsu in a month. Jiraiya said to hopefully hide his boastfulness, but Naruto was not to be fooled, but still was amazed that there was someone who mastered a jutsu that took a genius like the Yondaime Hokage years to master. Now that is said, here is the first step. Jiraiya started and he threw a water balloon for Naruto to catch. If you can pop that with just your chakra, then I will teach you the next step. Pop. Jiraiya was interrupted when the balloon popped only seconds after it reached Naruto's hand. The old perv just stared at the grinning blonde who just shrugged. What? You said that the jutsu is moving chakra, so I thought that was the first step. I jutsu used my chakra to move the water in the balloon in all directions until it popped. Naruto said plainly, and Jiraiya could just nod dumbly. The old man then took out a rubber balloon and filled it with air before giving it to Naruto. That will the second step, and when you show me after today that you have figured it out, then we will stop there and move on to Fuinjutsu as well. Your Kaiten is, I heard from Sensei, right? That was one of your elemental affinities. Jiraiya said sternly but to the point, and Naruto nodded as he left for his home with the old man just standing there thinking on how this student was unlike any other he had in his entire career. XXXXX, wow Naruto-kun, you actually are being trained with a senin. You are so lucky. Hinata said as she sat on her boyfriend's side that evening. Sakura was on the other side all the same. I was lucky to find someone available to teach me for the finals, everyone else is too busy or taken. Naruto corrected gently and his girls understood. I was also lucky that I sold the old perv out before he saw what you girls hide from such eyes. The kunoichi growled like an angered animal at an intruder on their land, but it sounded more like a fierce beast guarding their mate. I just wish that I can enjoy a trip to the hot spring without being peeked on. It is our right to have privacy from all but who we choose to share it with. Sakura mumbled after her hot spring time was ruined the other day. So girls, how are your training coming along? Naruto asked. He clearly wanted to change the subject since it was very sore for his company. That turned scowls into smiles. It is actually doing pretty nice. Kakashi-sensei really helped me with my stamina and strength as well as teaching me some Doten he personally knew and a few Suten. I am thinking of starting some of my own. Sakura answered, purring in her boyfriend's chest like she loved to do. Haku-chan is training with Asuma-sensei since Shikamaru is being trained by his own clan like Choji. Sakura added for extra measure. Same here, Kurenai-sensei is teaching me a lot of genjutsu she knew and helping me improve my accuracy. Shino-kun is getting help from his own clan. Hinata said as well, but Naruto just had to ask. How is dog breath being handled after what he said in front of his clan? Normally, the mention of Kiba is painful enough, but it made Hinata smirk in glee. You will know when he is dragged to see the finals by his family, but trust me, you will know how he can never bother me again. There is too much on the head and chest for the Inuzuka. Hinata spoke like a ninja usually does, filled with hidden meanings. Naruto couldn't be any more proud at how well his girls are at making a good example of how kunoichi really are. The couples continued to enjoy each other's company until they all turned in to prepare for yet another day of training. Soon enough, the day once called tomorrow is now known as today, as of the moment. Naruto woke up along with the girls, they cleaned each other up and ate their breakfast before leaving for their own teachers. Elsewhere, a familiar pile of white hair seemed to be giggling at the goods he is feasting to his eyes. But he doesn't seem to notice a boy who with a rubber balloon in hand was sneaking on him as silent as a mouse until pop. Arrgh. A girly shriek was to follow and the boy with blonde hair chucked as he looked at the sky for the white mess to land, which it did not far from Naruto. Well, it took all evening but I finally got the second part done. The blonde said until he interrupted. Will you stop it with the inventive ways to scare my heart out? Jiraiya said and went to look for his spot only to notice that he was in the forest instead. Wait. Wah. Who said you were in a hot spring? I sure didn't. Naruto smugly said and Jiraiya still caught on. You used genjutsu on me. How? You have too much chakra to control in order to do that. Jiraiya shouted in utter confusion that was infuriating as his answer was a smirking blonde until. You're right about that and that is why I am not using my chakra alone to cast genjutsu. Naruto said in his definition of a ninja dialogue. Jiraiya had a face like he was catching on but Naruto wanted to break the ice anyways. Yes, I can use my chakra to interact with the chakra reserves of others so that they will be forced to undergo their own genjutsu. I just use my immense reserves to keep it up. Naruto was feeling like he scored one over a ninja capable of taking the Hokage seat if he chose to. I get now and good for you. Jiraiya muttered sacristy before switching moods, and yes I see you have got the second part down, you really are surprising me all the time. Now let's get started on the rest of your training. Naruto smirked as he listened and braced himself. Now if you are thinking that I am going to write out what Jiraiya is going to teach Naruto besides Fuinjutsu and the Rasengan, then too bad. I can be a ninja sometimes even as the author. Just be patient and I promise that I will show you just how much Naruto had improved once he starts his fight. Too bad. XXXXX. The rest of the month passed very fast for sure for the ninjas who have their fights awaiting them in the same stadium in the village. The only difference is that the audience is larger and more diverse, complete with nobles and daimyos. The 12 genin were standing in the field while waiting for the clock to start the finals. Naruto looked at his two girlfriends to give them one last smile to boost their confidence and quell their nervousness. Soon, the long and agonizing wait was over when the Hokage arrived to face the participators of the exams. Good morning everyone. Hiruzen greeted the audience and competition alike. As you know, today will decide who is going to make it up the ranks from mere genin to responsible chunin. Compared to what happened last month, we have a much better number of fighters to compete today, so I hope you get your trip's worth. Now, let the finals begin. As soon as the speech was done, Hayat appeared as the proctor. To start things off is our decided first match. Will all but Sakura Haruno and Hinata Hyuga leave the field. The request was done and the two fighters and fellow lovers were left to face each other for a good match. Are both fighters ready? Yes, I am ready. That is what I like to hear. Hajime. Hayat raised his hand in excitement and announced the first match in the finals to go underway. Translations: Mikazuki no Mai, Dance of the 3 Days Moon. Sanin no Konoha, the 3 Ninja of Leaf Gama Senin, Toad Sage. Ero Senin, Perverted Sage Yondaime Hokage, the 4th Fire Shadow. Rasengan, Spiraling Sphere Doten, Earth Release. Suten, Water Release. The match between Naruto Uzumaki and Akanami Yoshihaku will now get underway. Are both fighters ready? Hayat announced the match and he was answered with a loud and clear, yeah. Hajime. Kaiten, Gokakyu no Jutsu. Suka Same no Harder. Both were shouted at the same time and then there came a giant ball of scorching flame colliding with the image of a shark's bare skin, causing an explosion. Everyone nearby had to brace themselves for the impact that shook them to their core and also for the horrible racket that threatened to shatter their ears. Then the occasional cloud of smoke had cleared after a good long time, to show that not one side had gained an inch of advantage. Up above, a bird happened to feel the impact too that caused it to almost fall into the stadium but managed to get in with the updraft and back into the air. it didn't know that it left one of its feathers behind to drift downward with the wind and landed right into the battle area. Once it touched the ground, it was taken as a signal to continue for the two ninjas as they raced for each other at the same moment. Ninjutsu only landed a standhill, so the shinobi started to switch to taijutsu. Blows rocketed to and fro, stabs and jabs, pushes and pulls, thrusts and slaps, the works that create sparks and makes our hands hurt. Yet Akanami noticed something was off about her opponent's hands when she let out a loud shriek of pain and pulled both of her arms away to see her left with ice on while her right arm had serious burns, peeling of the skin pretty badly. So that is it from the preliminaries. Akanami said with a surprisingly calm tone, when you humiliated that dog jerk while everyone was saying it was either hot or cold or neither. Naruto sighed as he pocketed his hands. Yes. It might twin Kekai Genkai, but anything else, you will have to figure that on your own. Naruto said, and Akanami smirked. Fine then. The Kiri Kunoiki then charged with both of her arms, despite them being affected by Naruto's powers negatively, outward. Same ago no Heiser. Everyone could see the image of a shark on its side, about to chomp on Naruto, who managed to dodge the pincer attack. Hyoten, he Shintai Ashiba. Akanami could barely move out of the wave of the ice sheet that spread around the ground of the arena. After failing at running, both of her feet were frozen stiff. Both Akanami was not out of business yet. Suka same no harder. That attack from the very beginning was a lot faster than Naruto had thought it will be and couldn't move out in time to receive the attack head on. Yet when the smoke cleared, the blonde wasn't even scratched, he was just wet. Before anyone could comment on that, Naruto had finished a set of hand seals before taking in a huge breath. Fuyuten, Gorotosuki Onsen. Naruto had extinguished a huge sum of boiling water that melt the ice, carrying Akanami away into a wall that was burned from the sheared heat. Naruto still wasn't letting his guard down, not with someone like this who managed to get this far in the exams. Suten, Mizurapa. Speak of the devil, a shot of water had from the smoke and nearly hit Naruto if he didn't move out of the way in time. Suka same no harder. The same shark image had emerged from the smoke as well, but this time, hitting Naruto, who was in a position where he couldn't avoid it. While not as bad as Choji in the preliminaries, Naruto was still covered with cuts and his outfit was in shreds. Don't underestimate Kirigakure. We are not the weakest village there is. Akanami thought she had Naruto enough to brag about it, but the blonde wasn't finished either. Kaiten, Hosenka no Jutsu. Naruto unleashed a storm of fireballs at Akanami, who wasn't worried the least. She just didn't know that it was exactly what Naruto wanted. Suten, Suijinheki. The Kiri Kunoiki unleash a barrier of water that extinguished the fireballs, but when Akanami thought she had the blonde. Futon, Repushu. Naruto clapped his hands, which dissipated the wall of water to reveal shuriken that were accelerated by the wind force. Akanami could get out in time for the ninja stars to strike her furiously, causing great injury. Right now it was beginning to become obvious that it was time for one last attack, and those two genin had thought so. Akanami had readied her injured arms, covering them with immense chakra that was even visible, while Naruto took out a string with kunai attached, each equipped with an explosive note before channeling his own chakra onto each of them. Suka same no same mure. Akanami started to shoot out multiple images of sharks from her arms towards Naruto. Futon, Karasuzuma Rashi. The wind made from chakra had formed the shape of a sparrow on every kunai when Naruto launched them from the cord connecting them together. The two attacks moved in blurs, but to the shinobi, they moving until they hit each other with a burst of force that shook the very air itself. When everyone was able to see the aftermath, they saw to their shock that both shinobi were sent flying by the force behind each other's attacks, but only Naruto was able to emerge and still stand despite his obvious injuries, while Akanami fell into unconsciousness. Genma appeared near her, to check her vitals. Then he stood up to announce, the winner of the match is Naruto Uzumaki. The crowd soon cheered for such an exciting match, while paramedics from Kiri took their beaten kunoiki out for healing, while Naruto managed to use a shunshin back to his own team. That was a tough battle to be sure, but Naruto needed to make sure things are still going along and prepared for anything funny happens. XXXXX, that was very good Naruto-kun, you really are quite the inventor. Haku said while Hinata and Sakura were busy focusing on covering the spots where Naruto's natural healing ability had to avoid in order to fix these bruises and scrapes. Still, we never found out how the kunoiki did her jutsu, so could you tell us? Haku decided to tease a little as part of her own personality while the blonde's girlfriends joined in on the begging that Naruto could never ignore. Fine then. The kunoichi smiled at themselves proudly while the others just knew that the girls had Naruto wrapped around their little finger. From I have noticed is that her chakra had been fresh in the air that her techniques had passed through, so I thought that she was manipulating the water vapor in the air to mimic the sharpness of a shark's skin. The density of the chakra mixed in the air was so thick that you could see the image of a shark as clear as day. Now his audience were taking this in and were amazed on how well Naruto has turned out to be really good about breaking down enemy techniques from simply looking at them in action. That is actually brilliant observation there, Naruto-kun. Naruto cringed to hear a voice that once again had taken him by surprise since he had his match, much like when the very first match of the finals was going underway. I wish you will stop that, Ka-chan. I can keep flinching when you suddenly start talking to me from inside my head. Naruto thought, and instead, Kuka giggled. You know that I can't help it when you let your guard down right after you finish your battles. Kuka teased her adoptive son like all mothers do for a living and pleasure. It was always worth it to see Naruto try to hide his blush from the eyes outside his mind. So the blonde tried to change the subject. Anyway, the next match is going to happen and I better prepare to be both excited and bored. Naruto thought that managed to get Kuka's attention. Just how does that happen, Naruto-kun? Isn't everyone in your village or the guest good at making a match exciting? This time, Naruto chuckled at it while leaving his adoptive mother even more confused. Just watch on how Shikamaru will display what is it like to be a Nara. Naruto thought, and he got comfortable with both Hinata and Sakura finishing up the healing, or should I say groping. They then leaned on one of his shoulders to rest their tired heads. Girls will always be girls. XXXXX, alright everyone. This will be the fourth match of the Chunin exam finals. Between Shikamaru, Nara and Temari of the Sands. With 3 incredible matches in a row, the crowds were cheering even though the match hadn't started. What they don't know is that there is nothing exciting about slacker trying to get out of a match. Temari just used her giant fan to hover slowly to the battle arena while Shikamaru was still in the stands, about to forfeit, but then he felt some grab him by the back of his collar. The Nara turned to see Naruto, already all healed up, with a look that wasn't approving of what Shikamaru was planning. Don't you dare quit on us now, Shika, I know where I can find your mom. Naruto said, threatening, and Shikamaru paled at the possibility of the blonde telling on him with his mother, who never had tolerance for her husband's or son's laziness to say the least. Then Naruto threw Shikamaru unceremonious into the battle arena. Now go get them and don't worry. Temari isn't as troublesome as you think. Now that meant Shikamaru's doom, as women hate it when men call them troublesome even if indirectly. What do you say about me? Temari was now roaring for a fight, and Shikamaru was still on the ground cursing and grumbling about how Naruto had to force him to fight in a match that he will prefer cloud watching over. Anyways, this match between Shikamaru, Nara and Temari of the Sands will get underway once both fighters are ready. Genma wasn't going to have any more of this nonsense, and thank the gods, it was quick for him to start the match and get out of the way. Kamaiteki no Jutsu. Temari reached for her fan and used it blow a sharp gale at Shikamaru, who was not happy about it at all. Now when he was thrown all over the battle arena like a rag doll in the wind of a storm. Shikamaru finally decided to stop himself when he saw that he was heading to the ground with enough force to crack his head open. Instead he was engulfed in a cloud of smoke, making Temari think that she had got him and braced herself to give the final stroke. Instead, she gasped to see a shadow hurry towards her. Temari moved away since she had read that once a Nara's shadow touches another, the owner of the same shadow is helpless to be used as a puppet while mimicking the movements of the Nara. Temari then saw that Shikamaru had halted his fall while using some kunai as footholds. Then he threw some more kunai, but with bomb notes attached, which nearly had Temari if she didn't move in the other direction in which they were thrown in. From that moment, Shikamaru tried to use his technique again, but Temari had dodged it again. Troublesome, I knew this will happen, and that is why I wanted to forfeit while I had the chance, but no thanks to a troublesome blonde. Shikamaru looked at Naruto, who just smirked until his mouth fell off, and then pointed at Temari, who was just fuming. Shikamaru then realized that he forgot about his opponent also being a blonde. If you still going to call me that, then I should make you quit before I kill you. Temari then unleashed another Kamaiteki no Jutsu at Shikamaru, who just managed to avoid it but dislodging his makeshift footholds, making him finally fall to the ground. Yet that rage was still fresh in the Suna Kunoichi's system, so she tried to hit him with her wind release technique, over and over. XXXXX in the stands, the Kunoichi were feeling sorry for Shikamaru for letting his laziness make him undergo the wrath of an angry woman, while the male shinobi were just clicking their tongues and shaking their heads at how foolish that even a Nara could be when it came to become motivated or dealing with women, and especially Kunoichi. Naruto was just observing and waiting for Shikamaru to finally show off his creativity and strategy in battle before quitting. In his mind, Kuka was cheering for Temari to show off her girl power. I must say that this Shikamaru character could use some of your own advice about getting a girlfriend before they all do, Naruto-kun. Some things will never change, and for once, Naruto didn't even bother trying to hide his blush, because with his two girlfriends on each shoulder and the others looking at him from the other side, couldn't even see that blush from that given distance. That will only happen years after this, Car-chan. Everyone thinks I am wasting time with girls when I should be training. Naruto retort in thought, but Kuka just won't let go of it. Sure, and I will be still waiting to hear on how your colleagues come to you for dating advice. Naruto groaned internally. His adoptive mother will never stop trying to embarrass him. XXXXX Shikamaru then decided that any more talking is only going to make this even more troublesome, so he used the wind to his advantage by mixing some smoke screens. While in the cover of the smoke, Shikamaru will try to finish this match once and for all. Answer: when Temari finally managed to dispel the smoke, she had to dodge yet another explosive note attached to a kunai. Temari then realized that, as the matches went on, the shade created by the sun increased, and so did the additional range of Shikamaru's shadows. Also, Temari noticed that she was actually quite far from the shade, so she felt safe from the influence and was able to use another of jutsu at Shikamaru, who didn't budge an inch. Yet. What is going? Why can't I move? Temari felt like something had grasped her body and was like making her paralyzed from head to toe. That couldn't be Shikamaru's shadow, since she was too far from the limited range of it, or is she? Kajime no jutsu success. Shikamaru said with a cocky expression on his face and confidence of victory in his voice, which set the civilians into shock as well as Temari, who could understand what just happened. Then she saw that Shikamaru was getting a little exhausted, and then saw something that she couldn't believe she missed. She was in range of the shadows after all. In fact, Temari was just standing near the edge of the shade caused by the afternoon sun. But how? I was sure that the shade wasn't this big. Temari struggled to find out what had caused this, and Shikamaru sighed. Well, since I had to win in the preliminaries, a troublesome blonde with whiskers, Shikamaru had dragged those last two words in order to make Temari blush at how she overreacted to his words not once but twice in one day, as well as trying to drag a verbal jab at Naruto. He offered to help me expand my horizons, since my performance at the preliminaries almost made me too predictable. One thing I did learn from him personally was what genjutsu actually is: messing up the sense of others by stirring up their own chakra reserves. A lot of ninjas got curious to this and listened in, so when our enemies will realize that they were under in genjutsu, they will try to dispel it, but by suing the same chakra that is the source to the illusion, they are helping us strengthen it. Shikamaru said, and the shinobi were getting it now. By rallying you up into your wind techniques, I was able to conceal myself casting the genjutsu. You never suspected a thing, and that can get you killed. That is what Naruto had taught me. Genma then dropped down to announce Shikamaru as the winner when I forfeit. Everyone was shocked to see that the same Nara forfeiting even thought he had gotten himself the victory. He must have been reading their minds when he started speaking again. I am nearly out chakra, and even if I can recharge by the time of my next match, I will have to go against Naruto, and for the record, I will never win against a troublesome blonde like him. Genma saw prefect logic behind that. Shikamaru was a true Nara alright, but still the match had also proved to be anticlimactic, a real downer to be sure. XXXXX, what is with that boy? Why did he have to surrender? This time, Naruto was expecting to hear the voice of disbelief from Kuka, and so he never flinched, not even by the sheer volume of the voice. Well, he does have a point. He nearly had the chakra left for another match, or the time left to recharge if did accept his victory. Besides, after how he made fun of Temari-san, don't you feel at least grateful for Shikamaru not hogging the victory all to himself? Naruto was a true gentleman to be sure, and Kuka actually calmed down at those words. Fine. But that is the last time I will let such a lazy ass do something so stupid. Kuka grumbled and Naruto just said nothing, as any comment will just offend her and Naruto was not going to do such things to the woman who finally became his mother. XXXXX. Now it is time for the fifth match of the finals, between Gaara of the Sands and Mizusame of Kirigakure. Genma announced to get everyone's damp spirits up again, and before he could even budge from his spot, Gaara appeared in a tornado of sand while Mizusame appeared from within a coat of water in the shape of a shark swimming in the air. Are both fighters ready? Yes. Yeah. Then Hajime. If Genma had known what was caused those two words, then he will also know about the attack on the village that also set of a string of events that will shock the entire ninja world to its core. Translations. Samago no Heiser, closing of the shark jaw, personal creation. Hyoten, He Shintai Ashiba, ice release, cold movement footing, personal creation. Suka Same no Harder, passing shark skin, personal creation. Fuyuten, Gorotosuki Onsen, boiling release, rogue hot spring, personal creation. Kaiten, Hosenka no Jutsu, fire release, phoenix sage fire technique. Suten, Suijinheki, water release, water formation wall. Futon, Repushu, wind release, wind wave. Suka Same no Same Mure, passing swarm of the shark skin, personal creation. Futon, Karasuzuma Rashi, wind release, hunting sparrow storm, personal creation. Kamaiteki no Jutsu, art of the sickle weasel. Kijime no Jutsu, art of the shadow possession. Mizusame decided to take the first move while Gaara just stood there in his original position. The latter always allowed his sand to protect him whatever he wants it to or not. The Kiri Shinobi launched a string of kunai in a similar manner to Naruto's before. Like before, Gaara's sands raced from within the good on his back in order to take in the kunai, but because of that, Gaara never noticed that there were special seals on those kunai until too late, when his sand got wet for some reason, and because of that, Gaara couldn't control his sands anymore as they became too heavy to move. Now your guard is down. Mizusame yelled when he moved in to slash at Gaara's face, only to see that there was even more sand guarding him. And since that sand wasn't wet, Gaara was able to repel Mizusame away until the Mizu Shinobi managed to avoid the worst to think of a different plan. After a short time, a smirk found its way to his face. I've got it. Die and appease me, mother, with your blood. Gaara then appeared with his sand about to crush Mizusame, which can be bad for the average person, but for a shinobi with a plan, it was the perfect chance to brilliantly execute it. Suten, Bakusui Shoha. Mizusame shouted and the large waves of fierce water had drowned the sands, causing Gaara to flee, to avoid getting wet. Then Mizusame started the first phrase of his new plan. He threw pairs of kunai into Gaara's direction, but the sooner shinobi let his guard down since none of them even got into range of himself. Suten, Suijinheki. Sabaku Soso. Gaara panicked and tried to stop this wall of water that seemed to be heading for the kunai and strike when he wasn't letting his guard up. Somehow the sands had stopped the Suten defensive jutsu being used as an offensive one as well. But Gaara never noticed that he had fallen for Mizusame's strategy all along, and he sound paid the price for it. He felt like something very thin and fine was touching his skin, and more specifically, his throat, his torso and his limbs. But before he could see that it was wires that were attached to the kunai that missed him, along with some strange paper with even stranger drawing that made his head cloudy, he heard something clear and loud. Same no Hanto, Zetai Fukutse. With the leftover water in the arena and from the Suijinheki, Mizusame was able to move in while Gaara was still not thinking straight and made a mortal wound on the side of his stomach, spraying his red life substance all over the ground beneath his feet. Gaara roared in pain and yet was confused at the sight of what was leaving his body. It was like a strange red and warm liquid that he only felt in certain places and times. My blood. My blood. Gaara started to act like this was the first time he ever bled in his life. Then Gaara started to morph in a sick way. It was like he was becoming a monster that merged with the very sands that he kills with. His eyes turned from human to a black one with shining iris of a star shape. His skin turned sand brown with black markings all around. His facial features even took less on that of a human's and that of a mammal like a raccoon. Everyone in the stand were getting scared and confused violently until they suddenly relaxed and saw feathers falling from the sky before falling back into their seats like they were dead. This also happened where the genin were awaiting their next turn at the same fate. XXXXX, what is going on? Naruto shouted as feather caused people, shinobi and civilians alike to fall around him. Ka-san. I am here, Sochi-kun. I have managed to stop this genjutsu from putting you to sleep. That is what this jutsu does. The Neon Shoujo no Jutsu. Kuka said, and she pointed out the situation to her adoptive son. Naruto nodded as he received on how to handle this situation. And with that in mind, he raced to find the rest of his fellow genin so they don't get separated and get killed in the confusion. Elsewhere in the village, the shinobi who managed to either stay awake and awoken themselves marched off to protect the others who couldn't protect themselves. This was because as soon as the genjutsu ran out of juice, enemy shinobi appeared and immediately attacked the village. They appeared from every alleyway, from every dark corner and form any possible hiding place where the eyes of the protecting shinobi never laid themselves on. Soon all the shinobi were all nothing but scattered throughout the village. It will seem this ambush is going to be a real disaster for Konoha. Back in the battle arena, with Gaara still screaming about bleeding like a baby, the Suna Kunoiki appeared and took Gaara into her arms. We are out of here. Let's go. Temari said as she tried to get Gaara out of the village. The plan was for him to awaken his demon against Sasuke, but the tournaments had changed and they were getting a little antsy. Too bad that their fears actually came true. Now they needed to get Gaara away from the Anbu who will try to subdue him and ruin the rest of the plans. Meanwhile, Hiruzen and Mei had moved just in time for the Kazekage to attack them, forcing the two Kage to retreat to the rooftops of the Hokage Tower. Around them, 4 shinobi wearing similar clothing of boxes appeared on all 4 corners that made up the roof, not with the blue shirts, black pants and oversized rope knots behind them. Then these shinobi did one single action. They made their hand seals and a cubic dome of purple-colored walls and ceiling emerged. The 4 violent flames formation. Mei voiced her observation. So Orochimaru wants no one getting out or interfering with his battles, huh? Even with another village fighting for yours, old man Hiruzen. The elderly Kage sighed deeply. It is me he wants, and if I didn't know the once prodigy of a student, he has something planned for you to be busy. Hiruzen said, and Mei had to nod at those words. Then the laughter of a madman was to be heard, pricing their ears. I should have been made the Yondaime Hokage, but you wasted your time trying to make me see this wall of fire that brat had instead, which you took my deserved title and gave to him. Orochimaru yelled at his past teacher. And what happened after you stuffed my head with dreams, ambitions for the future? You brand me as a traitor all because you were afraid of what I will become. I just wanted to know the answer to questions no one knew the answers to. And with this will kill you for what you done to me, and then I will finally be free. Orochimaru finished his speech by weaving hand seals which got both Kage on guard and they launched their own attacks. Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Kaiten, Hosenka no Jutsu. All these attacks sent a hail of shuriken into Orochimaru's direction, hoping to break his concentration and cancel any technique he was about to do. Unfortunately, it was not to be. Kuchio's, Edo Tensei. Stopping the shuriken, even the ones covered in fire, were 2 coffins that acted like shields for the cowardly. But no one was able to see that the snake sage was already out of breath from suing such a forbidden and demanding jutsu. His embarrassing encounter with Naruto in the forest still lingered around and was still biting him in the rear. Each of the coffins had the kanji for number 1 and 2 from the left to right respectively. Then the first coffin with the kanji for 1 opened to reveal a tall man with tanned skin and dark eyes. He had waist-length black hair typically styled in a center-parted fringe that framed his face. He often wore the standard shinobi dress of his era, consisting of dark red armor worn over a simple black suit with sandals. This armor was constructed from numerous metal plates, formed into multiple protective guards along his body. Each collar of his shoulder guards bore a strange symbol that was not seen in the village. The other coffin also opened and out came was a fair-skinned man with white, shaggy hair and dark-colored eyes. He had 3 red markings on his face, 1 under each of his eyes and 1 on his chin. In combat, he wore blue armor with a distinctive white fur collar over a simple black suit. This armor was constructed from numerous metal plates, formed into multiple protective guards along his body. Beneath his shoulder armor he wore 2 bands on each arm. This clothing was accompanied by sandals and a hapuri in place of the more traditional forehead protector. His casual outfit was a simple, short-sleeved, blue shirt kimono with mesh armor underneath and held closed by a pale yellow sash. This casual attire included blue pants and a bracelet of sorts on his left hand. Are they? Mei said, and Hiruzen nodded to verify her fears. She had seen their faces before and heard of their power. They were the first two Hokage of Konoha, Hashirama Senju and his younger brother Tobirama Senju. Where are we, brother? Hashirama started to mutter as he got used to his new surroundings that he did not recognize. This does not look like the astral plane where the dead go, Tobirama said in his usual serious tone. Then they both saw Hiruzen with a woman neither of them saw before. They then realized that if someone had went through such hard work to get the best student onto a rooftop and bring them to life on the spot, this woman must be. Oh, they finally elected a female Kage while we were away. That is great. Mito-chan has been trying to get that to happen for decades. Hashirama voiced his approval that his people had finally settled somewhere where they settled their sexist ways about kunoichi and women alike for something like this. Despite the praise, Mei still found herself sweat dropping at the impression this legendary Hokage who was considered to be one of the shinobi to be nicknamed the god of shinobi. This is what Hashirama Senju was like. Maybe I should have listened to old man Hiruzen. After all, he was trained by both this bosso and his brother. Seriously, who really is the older brother of this bunch? Mei thought all in her head but still readied herself for a real battle against them with Orochimaru in the mix. XXXXX back at the stands in the Colosseum, Naruto was still trying to find where his friends are. They had to suggest to be in different place to diffuse any arousing suspicion. Seriously, what will they do when they get ambushed because they were alone? Yow. The Konoha shinobi were baffled to see that Shikamaru was not dead and jumped with his rear end on fire. They all saw that Naruto had a mischievous look on his face. That told them that Naruto decided to be a little sadist when it came to waking Shikamaru up. Nice to see that you have finally decided to join us from the land of the dead. We need to get going. Sasuke has escaped from his prison. Naruto said, and his fellow genin who have gathered around for the plan had gasped. They have heard about Sasuke's traitorous behavior during the wave mission, so he was locked up until it was time to harvest his essence, thus making him an unwilling sperm donor. He also had spotted the Suna shinobi and ran off to face them. Kakashi-sensei told us to track him down and stop the team from doing something stupid and return him back to his cell. Naruto said to the glaring Shikamaru, who found himself being dragged along like a sack of potatoes along with the rest of Team 7 along with Team 8. Shikamaru eventually catch up in their pace, but that was to be soon as when they found the Suna team. The trio from the desert split up to help Gaara escape the Konoha shinobi. They still didn't stop Sasuke from moving past them. Shikamaru was about to try and evade Temari, who was still angry at him for humiliating her and giving up at the worst possible time during their match. Shikamaru, you made a fool out of a lady and it is only fair and right that you started your fight with her and fight for real. Or else I will have to tell all this to your mother the wrong way and watch how she reacts. I am sure she will be good for you in the morning and for your go sets. Naruto trailed off while the other shinobi left the poor Nara, face to face with an enraged Temari who won't let Shikamaru leave this encounter. Kankuro tried to stop the others, but he was then halted by Haku and Shino, who wanted a fight in the finals but wanted a little make-up when the invasions interrupted his chance. That left Naruto with his girlfriends and Kiba, who was reluctant on account the punishment the boy suffered at the hands of his family. For now, let's call him, her. But with this delays, Sasuke foolishly had gotten into conflict with Gaara in the forest. The Uchiha had heard everything about what happened and he hated it. He hated that his rival, and the one person that was supposed to be weak and stay that way, was slowly getting stronger, and he even have gotten not one but two girlfriends. It sickened him, and now Sasuke believes that taking advantage of the confusion will get him away from the place that only wanted his genes and sperm for their weapons. Then Sasuke realized that Gaara had set off the same energy that he had felt from Naruto at the bridge in Wave Country. So the Uchiha thought that Gaara was the one that Naruto was facing against and lost. And if Naruto couldn't defeat this boy, if Sasuke did, then he will gain back his respect he was stolen of. Sadly for the boy himself, it was not to be. Thought you could kill me with such predictable tactics and pathetic attacks. You denied me of my vengeance, and with your blood, I will be able to kill both the Mizu shinobi and the Uzumaki. Gaara shouted, almost snapping, but was able to send his sands against the Bond Uchiha and kill the boy. But then the attack froze solid only centimeters from Sasuke's heart. I am afraid that your killing mood has expired. And I will take you to the compost where you will be used for better soil. That voice was like a confident but cool shinobi in charge, and it was so familiar to both boys, it caused them to feel a shiver trough their bodies. They all turned to see, in the light of the sun like an action hero, Naruto Uzumaki and his girls on a tree branch. Dobe. Uzumaki. Both Genin shouted and the blonde just nodded and seemingly froze the entire forest with the expectation of his girls while Sasuke was now trapped in a net of frozen sand and Gaara's legs were frozen stiff. Let's rumble for good times, Gaara. You will come later, Sasuke, like always. Naruto said, ignoring the glare of hate and bloodthirst out of the Uchiha to focus on Gaara. That action can be proved too complicated as it can cause a history of pain to repeat and yet create a future so bright it can't be looked at without going blind. Translations: Suten, Bakusui Shoha, water release, exploding water colliding wave. Suten, Suijinheki, water release, water formation wall. Sabaku Soso sand waterfall funeral same no Hanto. Zetai Fukutse, shark's hunt, absolute ambush personally made. Nyan Shouja no Jutsu, Temple of Nirvana technique. Shuriken Cage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shuriken Shadow Clone technique. Kaiten, Hosenka no Jutsu, Fire Release, Phoenix Flame technique. Back at the village and with the cage in battle, the other Konoha shinobi struggle fend off the forces that came in all directions. It seemed like the invaders never stopped coming. But the Jonin were cleaning through the forces as easily as hot knives though thawed butter. It will seem that the ambush was only a minor inconvenience and showed off just how well Konoha shinobi can react to such things. Maybe Konoha's strength really wasn't all talk, and especially since they got just the right allies. The Kiri shinobi there for the benefit of the Chunin exams finals had helped with the other Konoha forces and helped even the number odds a little. They were so good that they might as well skip Chunin and become Jonin with their mastery over Suten and their other techniques based on the animal behaviors and attitudes of the sea predators. Yosh! Mighty Guy yelled as he sent 3 Oto and Suna shinobi through a brick wall for a good knockout shot. That makes 45. You are falling behind Kakashi, my eternal rival. Guy looked at Kakashi who had been standing onto a pile of defeated shinobi. 50, Kakashi said in a bored tone that got Guy tumbling to the ground at his failure to try and beat the one-eyed Cyclops. Then he was about to counter some Oto and Suna Kunoiki until he saw their well-developed figures and halted in his tracks with a blush hidden under his mask, leaving him open to attacks. Suka same no harder. Those Kunoiki were washed up and scraped by an unseen force that saved the prevented Cyclops of a Jonin. You really need to pay more attention, otherwise I may need to listen to Naruto about how you are such a pervert of a shinobi. Why thank you Kiri shinobi and watch your back. Kakashi lazy said and took out some of the enemy forces that took the chance while Akanami of Kiri was scolding the Jonin. Thanks, and that wasn't a compliment. Akanami said before joining the orders in taking out the invading forces. And while the ground forces are being taken care of, the cage were at a tough spot against 2 undead foes and a Sannin against them. They just were wondering why Orochimaru was losing his breath rather easily and used low-level jutsu a little too much, no big ones to take real damage. I am sorry that I have to do this, Mei-san. I wanted to see that you live and yet the record for first cage of all time. Hashirama could control his mind and mouth, but the seal implanted in his body was too strong for even him. I am getting tired of that, Hashirama, and stop it before I get the impression that you are a ladies' man instead of the god of shinobi they called you back then. Mei hated to see a fellow cage act so shameless in front of her. Yoten, yokai no jutsu. Mei spat out a stream of acidic mud from her throat protected by her chakra. It spilled all over the rooftop and melted off some of Hashirama's undead body that was already healing at a very slow rate. I will keep this up. I have enough chakra to go all day, and I will see that you will melt along with the rest of your womanizing ways. I will not be looked down on as the Mizukage. Meanwhile, Hiruzen was attempting to make it past his old age against one of his former teachers and one of his former students. His Doten jutsu were helping against Tobirama's Suten, and Hiruzen used his Kaiten against both foes. What is wrong, Orochimaru? You were always one to barely even get tired in a battle like this. Have you really got out of shape? Shut up, sensei. I am having a bad time trying to recover from that technique you taught that Uzumaki boy. Orochimaru revealed his rare states of anger that surprised Hiruzen quite a bit. Orochimaru was always so cool as much as he was cunning and cruel. But Tobirama was curiosity about something else. So the Uzumakis have survived the trials and dangers of time, huh? How come I see any forces from Azugaku? The second Hokage said, and this time Hiruzen gave the answer. Because there is only one Uzumaki left sensei. The rest of the clan was slain by the combined forces of Iwa, Suna and Kiri in the long distance past. It is all down to young Naruto. Hiruzen said, and instead of anger, Tobirama was laughing. And who has the right head to call the hope of the Uzumakis after a ramen topping? Tobirama could have laughed more, but Hiruzen stuck out on his head with his staff, destroying the head for now. Hiruzen then went all out on the headless body of the Hokage. Naruto was right, there is one way to face against the undead, they are still bound by their senses. Cut off the head and 4 of the 5 senses and you gain the upper hand. Hiruzen thought to himself as he used his diamond staff to knock Tobirama away and set him ablaze, and focusing on Orochimaru. Now I don't recall teaching Naruto any jutsu that could have caused this mess. You are Orochimaru, he never asks for any jutsu and I barely have the time to do it myself. You didn't. That brat did the reverse of the kinjutsu, unlocking of the 8 gates and sealed half of mine. Orochimaru yelled when he realized that he had been barking off the wrong tree all along. Then he is growing very well, Orochimaru. I dare say that if this keeps up, he might be able to kill you. I hope to hear about it somehow, since you are still the cowardly snake you always been who finally shows his true colors at the worst possible time. Now face me. Hiruzen said with a taunting smile and charged at Orochimaru, who took out his Kusanagi sword from his mouth very painfully and took a stance to at least take in some of the future damage. XXXXX. Meanwhile, in the forest that looked like a war zone has taken place there, with broken tree branches and bark, all encased in ice. Looks like this is it, Gaara. Natsu said in an ominous tone as he stared down the Suna redhead who lied on the ground helpless. It was a great race, but I have crossed the finish line first. It is time to end it. Just hurry up. I don't know how much longer I can stay conscious. That is what is keeping this demon from escaping my body. Gaara yelled in a concerned tone that was out of character for someone who loved only himself. Fine, Gaara, Natsu said, and some of the leftover ice around them moved to Naruto's hand and formed a makeshift spear. You lose. Naruto moved to make the final strike, but it never came. Arrgh. Naruto felt a familiar pain of something piercing his backside and coming out of his front side. It was one of the makeshift spears out of icicles that Naruto had scattered in his fight against the sands of Gaara. You were right, Dobe. Now that was a voice that neither one of the shinobi ever want to hear again. You did lose, and now you don't have your girls to help you. Sasuke Uchiha, someone that was forgotten by both shinobi during their fight. Naruto gritted through his teeth to be helpless to hear his precious girls being told off with Sasuke's disgusting voice. I made sure. They just won't go down so easily. They were lucky I don't have all time in the world to waste on them. Sasuke taunted Naruto, who looked at the backstabbing Uchiha with hatred while hiding his relief that Sasuke didn't try to harass or rape his girlfriends. Then Sasuke tossed the wounded blonde by the handle of the icicle spear, without any remorse or mercy left. You are pathetic, Suna shinobi. For losing to a Dobe whose real weapon is his good luck, but luck is nothing to real skill and real blood of the elites as I am. Sasuke's hand started to glow with lightning that moved so fast, it sounded as if 1,000 birds were chirping all at once. Time to die. Sasuke thrusted with all his might but felt nothing but sand when he planted his hand into that Suna shinobi. That was a fake Gaara that was made, and the real Gaara just managed to switch it with his place. Looks like it worked after all, Ni-san. Sasuke heard a deep voice coming from behind him, and when the Uchiha swelled to look, he saw Gaara. He saw the redhead from Suna in complete and perfect health holding up Naruto, who still had the cowardly wound that the Uchiha had to give to him. Yes, cough, it did. You girls can come out now. Naruto said in a weak voice. That very spot was where got his first wound from a backstabbing traitor and coward, and it hurt twice as much as it did well over 2 months ago. Sasuke just saw that Hinata and Sakura that he thought that he had tied up tight. What's the matter, Uchiha? Surprised to see us? We were expecting that. Hinata said in a more confident tone that gave Sasuke goosebumps and relief to her allies in their fight. Yeah, we even brought the girls you were talking to our boyfriend about. Sakura said, and from the trees came copies of both Hinata and Sakura, but they slowly morphed and slugged to reveal different people. People that had shinobi attire and headbands belonging to Otogaku. Why you, damn bitches, Sasuke had lost all mercy and patience and courage once he realized that he was cornered. This isn't over, bastards. I no longer care for Konoha, it can go down for all I give a crap about. All I need to live is that my brother needs to die, at my hands and my hands alone. Sasuke shouted, and that was the last they ever saw of the Uchiha during the entire invasion. He had just vanished after a puff of smoke left a dead animal in his wake, no doubt the one that Sasuke had killed in his rage, or otherwise it was just in his way. But now it was time to get back to the village and hopefully help out driving the forces out of the village. And to top things off, when Temari and Kankuro appeared, ready to face the Konoha shinobi for their brother, "Stop Temari, Kankuro." Gaara himself told them to stand down, remembering how they were afraid of him. "We are not fighting Konoha or Kiri anymore. We have lost. But, what have you done to our brothers bastards?" Kankuro was the stubborn type, all right, not very impressive for his already poor image with makeup on and dressed in a cat suit. "They have done nothing and we are going to leave this forest and for our home in Suna. That is an order," Gaara said again. He was just getting annoyed that his only brother was just too persistent. He just can't believe that he had to endure all this nonsense, and it is only because they are the only family left. XXXXX. Now that the invasion was lifting, with more and more shinobi come and puff out like flames after exposed to a stronger puff of breath, it seems to be more clear who is the winner of this war of an invasion. And even better, in the rooftop where the cage fort that was now overgrown due to Hashirama's bloodline Mokuton or would release over trees and plant bark, it will seem that Mei has a trump card that she was finally angry and annoyed to use now. "You know what, steam hurts even more than boiling water. See for yourselves," Mei shouted as she pressed her hand into the rooftop as Hashirama moved in with his Mokuton ready to impale her, but instead, steam emerged from the section of the roof he was standing on. The impact was enough to push Hashirama back, and the steam was hot enough to eat away at the wooden roots and the undead body of the Shodai Hokage. Juki Hataki no Hain. From everywhere else, Orochimaru had to get caught in a geyser that burst out of the roof under seconds. Tobirama also found himself a victim of this attack, even though he was able to protect himself by covering him in water that dosed the hot steam on his undead body. The real icebreaker came from where the Sound Four were placed in to hold up the four violent flames formation. The three male members of the Sound Four had to be exposed to the steam, while under the sole female member's feet, the support stands had burst instead. She was spared of any burns. But now that with three of the Sound Four out for the count due to the exposure of the steaming water and the footing of the female member lost, the four violent flames formation couldn't be held up any longer. It dissipated and caused all access to the route where the cage were fighting in, which included the Anbu. "Sound Four, we are retreating. Now," Orochimaru yelled out with what is left of his strength, and his Sound Four ignored their burns to disappear with the dying master within a shunshin. With that carried throughout the village by the wind, the Oto shinobi all fled while the Suna shinobi stayed behind in hopes of actually hanging in to beat Konoha. Instead they were overwhelmed, and the troops from the desert had just barely escaped from the village in the forest. Konoha and their new ally in war, Kiri, had just won the invasion of Oto and Suna. XXXXX. Now that Orochimaru and his Sound Four had fled, it was now time to clean up the village. And with an investigation had come up with signs that during the chaos, one of the Oto shinobi located the prison where Sasuke was being held until he was just ripe enough to be extracted of his sperm to be used to make more Uchiha children. It will seem that this infiltrator forgot to check if there were already sperm already extracted and stored. In this case there were, so Sasuke's running away wasn't a total loss. There is still a young homicidal maniac out in the Fire Country now looking for anyone that can lead him to his older brother and kill him. Answer: a few days later. Attention everyone. Hiruzen said from his chair in the Hokage Tower, after Mei Terumi had to leave Konoha to return to her own village, try to work something out from aiding their neutral country during the invasion of Orochimaru. "I will now give the promotions to Chunin. I was really hoping to do this more formally, but we all know who to blame for this." Silence reigned over the shinobi, and they kept their thoughts of cursing at Orochimaru for interrupting the Chunin exams to get at the aged leader's head. First, Shikamaru Nara, Hiruzen started, and the lazy boy was patted on the back rather hard by a grinning Naruto who only cringed that his old scar had opened up and he had to burn it in order to help out with the remaining forces, so now it is even uglier. For well-placed moves and brilliant strategy as well as devolution to your comrades that has proven to be stronger than your clan's accursed laziness. Some snickered at the Nara who blushed red at the jab that was true about his clan. "I grant the rank of Chunin to so that you will remain learning and become an even better Nara. And that you will even break the mold of a Nara once you become the next clan head. Troublesome. Oh well, thank you Hokage-sama. Shikamaru said in the infamous trademark of the entire Nara clan as he received a vest filled with pockets and a parchment that proved that he had got his promotion. Next, Shino Aburame, Hiruzen said the next name on the list, and the boy from the Bug clan made one step forward. You have faced all of your opponents with your clan's famous calmness and also a well-placed mind even in the face of danger. Please honor this new rank so that you may become one of the best leaders ever made. Good luck. Shino nodded the whole way and took the Chunin vest and verification parchment. Thank you Hokage-sama, Shino said in an emotionless tone that yet still gave off faint signs of joy and gratitude. Next, Haku Momiki, the girl from Wave, stepped forward. You have fooled us all and in a very good way by showing us your techniques without any of the weaknesses shown, as your foes didn't have the time to come up with the. You could have easily taken the top seat of the Chunin exams if Naruto will allow it. For someone with a bad mood, Hiruzen snickered along with everyone else at the jab that made Naruto blush in embarrassment that gotten some ice on the floor until both Sakura and Hinata kissed him on both of the blonde's cheeks, melting the ice and proving everyone's point. Anyway, I will grant you the rank of Chunin if you can promise me to never make it out with arrogance for your fellow Chunin and the genin who didn't do well enough to receive the rank. I will Hokage-sama, Haku said with the oath of humbleness and modesty as she received the vest and parchment. Next, Sakura Haruno and Hinata Hyuga. Now that was a different announcement, and yet Naruto's girlfriends all stepped forward after getting a good squeeze from their man. I normally do them separately, but I am not in the mood of saying the same thing twice, and that will happen if I did you two separately. Understand? Both girls nodded. It was clear that even on a day like this, the Hokage was in a bad mood. All I have to say to both of you is, Hiruzen drew his breath, making both Kunoichi nervous again, you all have come a long way. You have proven us all wrong from what you were like back in the academy. This is nothing sort of a miracle you both and Naruto pulled off like magicians. I grant the both of you the Chunin rank so that you might lead a revolution of turning any girl into Kunoichi. Make us proud once again please. Hi, Hokage-sama. This time both girls responded with vigor and spirit that at least lifted Hiruzen's bad mood. Lastly, everyone wanted to hear the last person to receive the promotion, even though the answer could be anticlimactic, Naruto Uzumaki. Looks like they have spoken a little too soon, and the blonde stepped forward. I am tempted Naruto. You have faced against the very shinobi who was powerful enough for someone like Orochimaru to consider his ultimate weapon against us, and yet you were able to bring him down with very little trouble. Jinchuriki who have awakened the powers through stress and danger are considered to be high-class jonin in power, and yet you still triumphed. You must have the best of luck, but that isn't enough to skip all the way to jonin instead of chunin. Everyone gasped at the Hokage wanting to break a few eggs in order to get a more suiting reward for this blonde that has been showing everyone wrong about him. So I am giving the special promotion out of the ones given to genin during the exams. You are now a special chunin. You will have additional power to oversee other chunin as well as the rest of the remaining genin. I hope you will grow and adapt to make sure I don't regret giving you this special gift. This will be the first time I ever did it once I became the Hokage. Make us even the ones in heaven proud of you. Yes Hokage-sama, Naruto shouted with the biggest smirk and vigor spirit of them all as he gotten the chunin jacket that was more ornate than the others. He also gotten his parchment of verification, but also the one that labeled him as the chunin above all other chunin that came with some new gear, kunai and shuriken, as well as spare scrolls made for any types of sealing for any magnitude of effects. Now we can get to something more important than any of this, Hiruzen said, and everyone stopped admiring the new accessories. I am retiring. This time for good. Gasps were heard throughout the room. I know that you all want to know why, and I am in a bad mood because I was up late last night thinking about all this. I wanted to die there since I have no idea on when I am going to let my tinker out if I stayed in office. This time, I am confident that there will be a real successor that can survive this accursed seat. The remaining student of mine that was last seen somewhere in Fire Country. I need her to take the hat as Jiraiya has too much of a free spirit to take the hat. He will be taking Naruto and his team along with Hinata Hyuga in order to track her down and hopefully convince her to take the job. I am counting on you all. Hiruzen finished and dismissed everyone while leaving a puff of embers back to his own little room to catch up in his readings. Well girls, let's go and see if we can find Ero Sennin as soon as possible. Naruto said, and they all nodded. The rest of you need to meet up with the rest of your teams for a good cookout to celebrate, because tomorrow, you will have to either take in your new roles as well as us or train for the next Chunin exams and hope for better luck that time. Naruto did his first go at his role of head Chunin, so the fellow young shinobi nodded. Naruto sure does adapt very well for his first day, doesn't he? Translations: Suka say no harder, passing of the shark skin personally made Yoten. Yokai no Jutsu, lava release, melting apparition technique Juki Hataki no Hain, steam field plumes personally made. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.